Okay.
Yeah, don't insult a man for being disfigured. I mean, that's just how it looks. I mean,
come on, man.
I'm sorry.
I resent the term disfigured being used there.
I'm sorry. Perfectly shaped as a potato.
Perfectly formed. Okay. Being, yeah, WP face roll. Holy shit, guys! It finally happened.
Real.
We've finally seen more than a shoe.
Oh, this potato, dude! I love this potato. This is like my favorite one. I didn't realize that's the one that I'd sent you all that time ago. I love that thing. That looks amazing.
So what happened to that potato? Is it still around?
Yeah. I mean, it's become a full plant now, and it's been planted in the garden and got loads of others. What else are you gonna do with potato? That's literally like 2 years old now. If that was still around, it would be pretty messed up at this point.
I always thought that
that became a roasty for a Sunday dinner.
Okay. So you don't keep all of your cam-faced potatoes in like a glass vault that slowly decay over time into little.
Yeah, that's what the entire one of the rooms in my house is.
You have an altar of potatoes. Yeah, I'm sure some of your fans do.
Hey, no, we don't talk about that.
Send your pictures, guys. I want to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Potato altar.
Find the treasure. But how?
So do people know what the topic is today, or is everyone else just sort of winging it at the same time?
No one knows. Okay, tea time is always a surprise. You know?
For everyone.
Do you want to introduce it then, WP? Do you want to just hit it?
No, you're the host, man. Okay. You're the host.
Okay. All right. So, my friends, today we just talk about everything. Okay, and literally everything. Halloween. Okay, the future of the game, the current state of the game, everything, all of it. We're doing all of it. Okay, in one go.
Focus.
Exactly. Yeah, we like to just deal with a few topics, right? A few topics at a single time. So, we'll just do the whole game real quick. And what better guests to have on to do that than, of course, Boots, WP, and Deroir. Okay, this it's entirely possible that this could be the longest tea time ever. It could go on for 10 hours at least. So yeah,
4 people who could talk about anything for 4 hours straight for no reason.
24-hour podcast is being called out in chat now. That's it's delicious. Really is delicious.
Can I question sleep in the middle of that 24-hour podcast? Can you carry the show?
Stream from the bed.
Yeah, we can rotate some people out, right? Like we can kind of get some replacements in. Yeah, just call up some other people. That's what the Guild Wars 2
Twitch section needs, a permanent podcast.
24-hour podcast.
Well, speaking of a 24-hour podcast, they're actually doing that pretty soon. November 2nd to 3rd, the ArenaNet channel is going to be doing the what's it called? The charity podcast.
True Life, isn't it? Or wait, what's something like that?
Extra Life.
Extra Life. Boom. There we go.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet from Hugh Norfolk saying
Second Life, isn't it?
In it or something.
I think it's Extra Life.
It's not Second Life.
Second Life is a fucking game. Someone just said it in chat. I was like, that sounds like something I've heard before. Nope. Extra Life.
So everybody.
Second Life.
Are we shaving our hair this year, lads?
I think some people might be shaving their head. Yeah. Yeah. So everybody here should tune into that on November 2nd. Should be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's also another. Speaking of charity events, there's a 24-hour World versus World stream where they're going to get sniped by all the other servers and bullied.
Is that actually happening?
Yeah. It's going.
When's that?
Oh my goodness! I think that's is that next weekend? I feel really bad now. Hang on, what day is it? Like someone sent me a message about it. When is it? Oh no.
It's
next. Yes, it is. It's next Saturday. Yeah, 24-hour World versus World, guys. Okay, imagine that. But never mind all that. It's for charity as well, guys. Also an excellent cause. Okay.
Be a horrible reminder to people of back with the old World versus World tournaments, and everyone just grinded and burned themselves out.
Yeah, the good old days.
The good old times. Yeah, those are the horrible times.
Am I wrong about this? But didn't the devs basically say that was really good for World versus World activity, but the second that ended, it just destroyed World versus World activity because everyone melted.
People couldn't handle it anymore. There's no, that's it. I never want to see this game mode ever again. Like we won.
No one played, expecting more tournaments.
Because I think on each server, like the 2 or 3 major commanders literally died in real life from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, no,
no, not literally.
What did I just hear that?
No.
Oh, that didn't make the news, but Chris Cleary jumping that gold seller off in the in Divinity's Reach totally did.
That was good. Okay, that's a good. That is how you promote your game.
Newsworthy
Best media attention
that
you've
I've
ever had.
ever experienced, and I can't believe. Like, did you know that got into the Guardian newspaper?
Wait, I got to the. I didn't know I got to the Guardian.
Like,
Really?
print news and stuff. It was ridiculous. It was like such a huge thing. It was like, why? This is how Guild Wars 2 gets into the news.
Yeah. Hey, you got to take what you can get, right? You got to take that. You got to take that easy promotion.
Oh yeah, think about all the new accounts that signed up when they saw that. Right?
Just drop that referral link in there. Like, get that referral link, and that's job done. Okay, that's easy, right there.
Hook up the Guardian with the referral link. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, you got people lining up to get banned. Okay, so they can get in that treatment. Okay, they want to get banned. They love it. Okay,
I think there are people who are like that. Yeah,
definitely, actually. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, though, okay, to the topic at hand, okay.
I like the shifty eyes from Boots there. Like, I'm one of those people.
Yeah, the meta police comes to get him though, dude. Okay, that's not Chris Cleary. You know, that's they come and shut him down
every day.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, but to the point. Okay, what's the first thing that's coming up immediately, guys? Well, it's Halloween. Okay, it's Halloween, and you know the festivals are kind of getting standardized a little bit, and I think Halloween is no exception. And in much the same way that some other things have returned to the game recently, something is coming back, isn't it, guys? A very long requested thing coming back, in fact, right? Every single year, right? People ask for this, and it's Reaper's Rumble, guys. Okay?
I have never tried it.
I think I did the first year. I don't remember liking it.
So here's the thing. I probably wouldn't have any memories of Reaper's Rumble at all anymore, except because every single year since release, I've done basically the same YouTube video where I say, I really hope that Reaper's Rumble comes back. Every single time I do that, I end up going back looking at my old footage from the first year and watching this same clip of me, like in these heady 2012 days, playing this bit of Reaper's Rumble. So I have like this weird perspective of it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember how that works. Like you kill the skeletons and you do this, but I really have just seen the same thing like 40 times. Well, the same like 40-second thing. So over.
So you watching it those 40 seconds at a time, do you like have a nostalgia wave that makes you think it was really, really good?
No, I don't. It's literally just.
Wait a minute.
It's content that I once played and isn't there. Now here is the thing though. It's a really cool looking place, like aesthetically. It's a part of the Mad Realm that doesn't feel like other areas of the Mad Realm right now. Like it's all orangey and you get the cornfields with the stealth and stuff. And what's really hype about it is, did you guys see, I can't remember who it was, but one of the articles where people got interviews with the devs, they said that there is a new roller beetle race coming.
That's what I was excited about.
Themed
That's the
on the Reaper's Rumble. Yeah, so
the Mad King's Raceway, I believe it's called.
Yeah, so that is new content, non-standardized to the event. It's I guess kind of like actually not kind of like adding in races to the Labyrinth or to the Winter's Day stuff. It's creating, I guess, a completely new map for this racetrack.
Yeah, but it will look like the Rumble, I guess.
I think it takes place in the same map. Basically, they just have two instances of it, and I think the way that it was worded in. Because first it was announced in one article, and then another article, I think it was the Red Bull article that came in afterwards and was like, there's going to be a race on a timer. So basically, like we already know the other races, festival races. But in between, there's going to be like a time trial thing, probably akin to what we already have with like the first beetle thing. So I think it's just going to be perpetual. You can always go, and then there's one big thing.
And then there's a race, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. People are going to get good.
The map itself, the thing is, with the roller beetles, it moves so fast, right? So you say it's the same map, but I mean, I can't see how that's possible because it's a reasonably sized PvP arena, right? But I mean, the roller beetle moves really fast. If you're going to have an actually...
It's perfect. It's perfect, man. It's
slow. It's got
no. All you need is a perfect square. You just need those angles. You just need it to like crisscross in between. It's perfect. I've been scouring because I've never actually seen the map. I've never actually been on it. First year around, I wasn't. I was out of the country. So I've been like scouring the internet for like seeing the map and whatnot, seeing all the different details and like the way that you can go around in the in like the cornfields and through the different section with the tombs and whatnot, or the gravestones, grave markers. I think it's going to be, it's just going to be spiraling in and out and,
a lot of jumps
of itself.
Some big jumps.
Yeah, it's going to be. One of the articles said something about a jump, so I think there's going to be added something to it because that does not sound like anything that is already there.
Well, so let me give a counter proposal here. You just suggested that it will be the same format as the other festival races, which is a fair thing. But what's on my mind is the festival already has a race of that format in the Labyrinth, and what I was curious about is the only actual beetle race, if you want to, it's not really a race, but we had the adventure when the beetle came in, which had the voice acting as you went through it. And then the devs said that they wanted to add more. I'm wondering if the format might not even be like a regular kind of race, but it could be like an adventure style thing we saw.
I think Deroir was saying that. Deroir was saying that he read something along the lines of there being a timed race, but in between the timed races, it's an adventure that you can just do.
I see. I completely blank space on that. So they get the best of both worlds. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be perfect. The ideal world, what I was hoping for, would be just a version of it that was akin to the Mad King's Tower.
Yeah.
Where every time people just failed, they just died and restarted, and it would just perpetually keep going. That would be the ideal.
What about the reverse? Couldn't the Mad
driving down the tower?
No. Couldn't the clock tower be updated to use the interface and infrastructure that we're talking about, the beta race? Because then you'd have a proper... Wait, there's already a timer, isn't there? On the clock tower?
It's an instance that gets reset
it's
over
weird.
and over again.
It's very weird way
so
it
they
works.
could update that, you know? Maybe?
Probably can.
They probably could, yeah.
If they want.
I think it could work like a conventional race, though. Like a bit like how it is in the Queen's Gauntlet, right? Like where you have just a race and then it is just a time trial for a bit. You could just have that perpetually going around. And
the question is, what do you do on the map outside of that, though?
That could be it.
I think that's it. I think that's literally it.
It could
just queue up for an instance of that.
The terrain could be slightly modified, and so it's like a slightly different instance. And then it could be it could be a quote unquote beetle race. It could just be a normal race, but it will be a beetle race because you'll never win on anything except the beetle, right? It could be very favored towards one particular amount, right? So it would just be impossible to win without it. So that's the way they could do it with infrastructure that already exists, I guess, and that might make.
I think that's kind of the thing with the beetle. Like, if any race is possible to do with the beetle in any way, shape, or form, that will always be the preferred mount to go with. Like, you're never going to beat the beetle if the right conditions are in place.
Yeah.
So,
unless you have like 18 mesmers that just pull you.
Yeah, that's a threat. That is a threat.
I stand corrected, mate.
Have you been considering that a lot, Boots? Because you were going for number one on the beetle adventure.
On the other beetle race, I have not been considering it a lot. I think it's possible to do. I just don't want to put in the effort to gather mesmers
I'll do a stream, and we can do that. We can easily set that up, man.
Well, then it's really easy. Just one mesmer per checkpoint. They set up a portal beforehand.
That's so sad. Wait, is that? Surely
it
should
work.
cancel you if
it would work.
Yeah, it would work. Yeah, it would work.
That really upsets me. You know, you get accused of being like the biggest hacker. By everyone.
Well, I mean, for that particular adventure, the current highest time on NA is mine, and that is technically impossible to beat because of the bug that happened. So
wow, Boots.
So
wow.
There's
So you gotta beat it
buddy.
illegitimately as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only way is to cheat even more. Is that what you're telling me? That's the only way.
Or just hope the servers lag again for some reason and then count upwards.
You got to do it right as they push a new build, and it will go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So here, I got a little discussion as well. Boots mentioned a second ago with the Halloween thing. We talked about the fact that the race was coming, and you emphasized so that's actually new content. You emphasize new, right? So his discussion. Reaper's Rumble comes back after all these years. Basically, no one has any realistic memories of properly playing it anymore. It's gonna be different with their tuning. If you actually look at the old footage of people playing it, it was, PvP back then was completely different with the way you got points on everything. It's gonna be in a slightly modified form. Nobody has any realistic, worthwhile memories of it. Is it fair? And I'm just, adding fuel to the fire here to call that new content.
I mean, all things considered, I guess it is. Yeah,
new content.
For me, it's new. It's going to be new, and for everyone who's basically just forgotten it, it's
Well,
I think it's a fair assessment of it.
I think we can solve this. We can solve this. We need to ask chat. Who remembers Reaper's Rumble? Okay, let's see. Let's see who. Let's see who remembers. Okay, let's see if it's fresh. Okay, because I think pretty much everyone doesn't remember it really. But sorry, go ahead, WP.
So because this is a really worthwhile discussion to have, right? Because this is a low bar to set for Reaper's Rumble, right? Because no one really, and the thing is, nobody really played those anyway. It was kind of dead content even back then. Like, Halloween had so many different things in it. Like how few people play it. But anyway, if your answer to this is yes. What I then think is, all right, let's talk about season 1 because the same principles are at play. People poo-poo.
I know where you're going with this.
People poo-poo season 1 and say, "Oh, it's old content. You can't look at old content. We can't do. You've got to do new stuff." Well, if we can accept that there's a length of time whereby we basically consider something new again, how long till that's true for Flame and Frost? Who really remembers all the little changes at those refugee camps, for example, as they change? How long? How long is the stuff upcoming? And that's,
I guess it boils down to like what are the metrics that we're considering here? Like how many details do you have to remember for it to be considered forgotten, right? Because I can easily remember the broad scales of like just if you mention a name of probably one of the episodes or whatnot, I can probably pull out of my ass like somewhat of a detailed description of what actually happened. Because it wasn't actually all that much.
I have an idea along the same vein. How about this, okay? You optimize it a little bit better and then put an announcement on guildwars2.com saying there's a new island appearing off the shore of Lion's Arch called South Sun Cove.
Dude, that'd be hype. If they replicated their old marketing, that would be very cool.
We go back and we do the event again.
And do the event again.
Everyone gets precursors. Yeah.
Everyone gets
Hi.
Let's go.
Crazy lag. Let's simulate the crazy lag again and the culling of the Karka.
It'll be great. That will be I love that. I remember that, like the 3 15-minute events where you just get bashed by champion Karka the entire time.
Invisible, yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
That's another interesting thing, right? Even if we imagine that they wholesale 100% managed to drop season 1 in, which is impossible and would never happen, it would have to be different, right? But even if they did, it's that Ship of Theseus thing, right? Where the game in general is different enough, it would be seated within the Guild Wars 2 of 2018 with its option variety and its build variety and its optimizations and like all that stuff that marred or altered the season 1 experience before would by default be different. So I just think there's a really strong argument to say that the only thing that's old is the flavor of the release, right?
I don't think I've ever been opposed to bringing back season 1 in some form, if only as like purchasable episodes for 200 gems or whatever. Yeah, it's a lot of content that we don't get to play anymore.
I reckon that would tick people off, though. I don't think that they'd be able to sell it, even at 200 gems.
I'm
very cynical about.
If I can just poke at the Ship of Theseus thing, because it's still going to be perceived as the same thing, regardless of whether or not every single structure of the ship is changed. It still looks like the same thing. So anyone with any idea of how the content initially looked and experienced it will still get that feeling of whether or not it's the same.
What percentage of the current active player base was around for that?
Yeah,
that's a great question. Too.
Do we have any metrics on that?
It's probably.
I think Deroir's got a really good point though. Like that kind of that cynicism there, I think, is really, really important because I think that you lose a lot of marketability. I think that's the main point.
Right, and veterans do like to complain about a lot of things, so it is the veterans that it would affect in that one way.
Would people really complain though? I'm maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think people would really like it actually. I think
just to be clear, I think this is the most intelligent, obvious thing the devs should do for a long time, and I've mentioned it on many streams in the past. And there's always someone that comes out and says, "No, this would be terrible. I'd hate to play it." Blah blah blah, and I get on a proper high horse about it because it really frustrates me. I don't see I don't see any compelling argument not to bring season 1 back.
So it was very different from the other seasons, though, right? Like there's a lot of map involved stuff that they would have to reproduce in some way. So like non-instant content.
There's a beautiful quote. I think it was Bobby Stein on Reddit maybe 2 years ago, where he talks about the plausibility of bringing it back purely hypothetically. He's not confirming or denying anything, but he very clearly talks about like Season 1 kind of only manages to string a story together because of the in-the-moment nature of the patches. You know, even ignoring like map-wide Zerg events like the Battle for Lion's Arch and all the marionette thing, not the marionettes, these the twisted watchwork invasions around Bloodtide Coast and all that kind of stuff. Even ignoring all that kind of stuff, if you look at like just the very basics, Flame and Frost, which isn't indicative of the full experience, but like one patch there's a refugee camp, and then the next patch some slight shifts there, and then the next patch a body appears in Wayfarer Foothills, and then the next patch there's some steam vents. That kind of stuff, legitimate. You can't just say, "Oh, let's add that to Guild Wars 2 now," because it only worked because it transitioned through. It only worked because they transitioned through the patches, right? That's how it told the story, that the NPC dialogue was shifting. So that just can't work. They have to change it. They have to add like an overarching wrapper, a story wrapper to everything, and that's kind of what Bobby talked about. In the, you know, if you ask him for season 1 back, it takes a lot of work, and it hit the tone of his post was that reduces the plausibility of this happening. But I would actually say no, the fact that it's going to be different is an asset, is something to take forwards, right? That's why, you know, they announced season, people might know this, they announced season 5 recently, obviously, instead of an expansion. All of this is to go forward and say, what do you think? Season 5 is not actually season 5; it's season 1.
Heard you say that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
come on, it works perfectly.
It does. I'm not sure about that.
It's coming back.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think that.
I think if anything, actually, I would, if they actually went ahead and did that. I think a lot of people, myself included, would probably perceive this more of grasp at straws, if that makes sense, in terms of like how much manpower do we have to create new content, or where do we want to go, what do we want to do with the story. We don't exactly know where we're going, so we're going back to content that we already have in the bag. And
I don't think that's the case at all.
No, but,
like, right, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think though that probably WP are wrong about that, because if they do bring back season 1, I don't think they would actually roll it out as a season again. They wouldn't roll it out episode by episode by episode. I think it would all come in one package.
And drop the hammer on it. That would be
sell that package.
I think they would probably have to sell that package, or maybe include it in the next expansion. I don't know. But so season 5, another reason why I don't think season 5 would be season 1 is because I think that there's going to be a good amount of story they still have to cover before they could do a new expansion.
I think I'm right there with you, Boots, in terms of I think it's going to be sold. If in case it ever comes back, it's going to be sold more akin to like the like side missions from Guild Wars 1 or whatnot, like the story steps there.
They
I think doing it like that would make more sense.
I would say with the idea that we can't go to an expansion too quickly because there's so much more story to tell to get us there. I'm excited by that prospect, obviously. There's so much rich stuff before we need to go somewhere else. But I have to say, since what we saw with episode 6 into Path of Fire, where it was literally like 20 seconds dedicated to, oh, he's in the desert now, let's go. Yeah.
But that's why I don't think they could do that again. I think that was just like...
They did it before. I'm now in a position where I feel like they could do it a million times.
That's the best way to segue an expansion, okay? You just have to just get, like, there's a new threat, we gotta go. How do you think we're gonna get to Cantha? It's how we're getting to Cantha, okay? Like, look.
This is totally off topic. It's not about the future of the game. But do you guys think... That was really clumsy and awkward, right? Do you think that was because, in part, of the leaks, which happened early enough, that meant they didn't feel the need to do any, like, hints towards the desert? They just kept it like a totally blind jump because it was all kind of... They knew it would be lost anyway. It felt kind of weird to, hint at the desert, even though...
I think
because it would have legitimized the leaks, too.
I think they tried too hard to link to hint it, and players missed it. Because
what did they do?
Like going back through the season, there's a lot of hints at like fire.
Well, they hinted at Balthazar, but they didn't hint at going to the desert.
Yeah.
No, I mean, granted, but still, I mean, he's a god. He can fly anywhere. They could have literally sent him across the world. I guess.
I know,
but that's it. That's like literal Deus Ex Machina there.
I don't think that would have played into the decision because realistically, not a lot of people actually saw the leaks. I'd say in terms of the actual overall player base.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the kind of person who would see the leaks is typically someone who's quite like very much into all like the like try-harding the game in a way, like really looks at reads all the forums, reads all the like the stuff online, all the articles and stuff. And I think it's maybe not as many people as you might think, actually.
Do you think there's a really large proportion of active living world players that aren't invested in broader community stuff like Reddit and discussion stuff? Because I think increasingly, as we move into like internet integrated society and stuff, most people do keep their eye outside the game a little bit more now.
I think that's definitely true. I still think a lot of people do just maintain it within the game, though. And even if they do sort of leak, even if they were exposed to the leaks, I think a lot of people would actually not look at them on purpose, even just because they want to keep it fresh for themselves.
I know a lot of people who didn't. Yeah,
I think people do want to enjoy the game and don't want to get into it. But even if literally everyone saw the leaks, I don't think ArenaNet would kind of compromise their own writing for that purpose.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing: wasn't there like a pretty damning data mine at the end of season 1 that stopped Marjorie from dying? Wasn't that a thing?
What?
Marjorie was going to die, and they changed it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember if it was
I remember
due to a data mine, but it was. Yeah.
There was
on the table.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you voted between Ellen Keel and what's his name? The Black Lion
Evan
guy, Evan Ashblade. Because Ellen Keel won, Marjorie survived, and if we had voted for Evan Ashblade,
just like a hidden,
it was all rigged anyway.
Hidden extra role.
It was
only had the
rigged,
resources
actually,
to write one story. It was all faked, the whole thing.
You think it was set up?
No. I think it was real. I think it was legit. People genuinely think that was faked, but no, come on, that would have been legit. They had the thing is, guys, you can be cynical about like company line and company deception stuff, but when there's like devs on forums and on streams and stuff talking about how they wanted the Abaddon fractal and stuff, that's not a human being barefaced maliciously lying to you. These people are telling the truth. There was a real vote in season 1. It must have been.
Why wouldn't there be a vote?
Because again, I don't know, because
it's rigged. It's scripted, Boots. It's rigged.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's true. The game is scripted, technically.
Yeah. Anyway, and that kind of stuff. Think about that. That was a big facet of some season 1 stuff. How do you re-implement that in the future of Guild Wars 2? You know, it changes the face of it in some beautiful ways. That I think just means it's new content, really.
But how much did in the vote itself? How much did it immediately affect the game?
It didn't really got cheaper waypoints, so
cheaper waypoints, and Ellen Keel didn't really factor into the story until a little bit later, anyway. So maybe Evan Ashblade would have factored into the story instead of her, but. I don't think you need to have written something like the character could be interchanged with Evan Ashblade for whatever the person did.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it was designed to a certain extent, though, right? Because when it came to season 1, they probably already kind of knew where they were going, so they needed to make sure that it worked with both, right? They couldn't just say, oh well, we didn't want this guy to win, now we've got to change our story, right? I think having a bit of interchangeability with regards to that was probably intentional, right? And it would have they would have factored in, a little bit, like especially with the Lion's Arch Fiesta, right? The Lion's Arch stuff would have been very much different, right? If it would have been approached in a different way, and there'd have been obviously like a lot of dialogue had to change around a little bit.
So, but hold on a second though. What about Abaddon Fractal?
Well, that would have been different because
did you ever get
part of the no, of course not.
Oh,
no, would have actually
ask if we ever got the Abaddon.
That's what I'm saying. That means
we never got
there's an Abaddon Fractal out there.
They will not. I desperately do not want them to do the Abaddon Fractal. For some reason, people think that this is like something on the table. It's like, oh, do we get it now? It's like, no. The whole point was to have a decision. You turn your back on the.
Hey. On the WP, you're saying bring back the season 1 entirely. But we can't bring back
the rest of us can dream as well.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Oh, no, that's kind of a cool idea. If they bring back season 1, then yeah, maybe there's an opportunity to give people the choice again. But I believe in honoring the stakes they established with that old vote. And if even in another 5 years they put an Abaddon Fractal in, to me, I think that is somewhat of a step back, and I don't like it. What I really resent is just people thinking that it has to come. Like you see comments, people like, when will they finally add the Abaddon Fractal? Like they've been teasing you with it. They're not teasing you with it.
In a way, you're right, because it literally is the only choice that players had in the entire game that forced.
We also got to name a POI in Lion's Arch. Thank you.
Right.
Right.
Good point.
We got to name our guild. Yeah, we got to name our own guild. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
that
one's actually really important.
Because they made jokes about it and everything.
Everyone forgot about it because it was just like,
what were the other choices again? What were they?
Destiny's. No.
Fate's Razor.
What did we end up with?
Fate's Razor, man. Look, Fate's Razor.
Oh, Fate's
God. The play on Destiny's Edge. Fate's Razor. There's the Dragon's Watch.
Wait, what is it? What is it called now?
Dragon's Watch.
Yeah, Dragon's
I couldn't remember because I just remembered Dragon's Watch. I didn't remember if it was the
Deroir Lawmaster of Guild Wars 2, by the way. Okay. Yeah.
And then there's something else that was kind of weird. Actually,
yeah, there was a really weird one actually. There was one that was just like completely ruined. It was like you'd not pick that. But to kind of steer it back towards the central topic. I think if they were going to re-implement season 1, it would be exactly as WP says. Honestly, I don't think they would. I think they would have to do so much work in actually making the content work again that they're not going to add any more. Right? I think that I'm going to hazard a guess here and say that if they like copy pasted the code back into the game right now, it would just break instantly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all stuff. It's all stuff prior to mounts being implemented too, and gliding. So like it doesn't have any of that gliding code.
Yeah.
Whenever they talk about that old stuff, like even the Bazaar of the Four Winds, they were talking about how that needed like modernizing. Yeah. I think that wasn't. It was sometimes shortly before Heart of Thorns. There was some big back end change in the way they detect like bot movement or hack movement and stuff that they had to change, and that like broke a ton of stuff. That was like their big reason, I think, for one of the delays on Super Adventure. Remember, Super Adventure Books was on hiatus. It wasn't getting new updates or implemented at all. And like they were saying, it was something to do with like the movement code in the back end or something like that that broke it. And all of this Living World Season 1 stuff is the same, right? Essentially, that same period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking to the future Guild Wars 2, I do think that that's important. And I think that the real interesting discussion is where would they find the time for such an endeavor? I think it's important because they care so much about the story of the game at the moment, right? Like all their budget is on Living World. It's not all on raids. It's not all on PvP. It's not all on World versus World. It's on these like really intricate, long campaign missions that most people play once, and they want you invested in the story. They want you to care about Timey. They want you to care about all the stuff that's going on. And yet the inception of these characters is not available. And that, to me, is, you're building a house on quicksand. They need to find the time to put it back in, but when and how?
Yeah.
It certainly would be a big challenge to implement it as well. Like, as we were saying earlier, like the nature of how the earlier Living Story worked, like being very fluid and changing a lot, would make it you would have to rework some of it in the episodic nature. So it would be a very large amount of work to actually do it. Which would have, of course, it does cause a lot of problems because they already are the tempo they've set for themselves like every 2 to 3 months is already pretty difficult, right? And there are delays on top of that. So there are already issues just keeping up with that. It's obviously no small task for Arena.
So I think it's possible though, like because like in the newer maps they have a lot more phasing implemented into things, and so they seem to be getting pretty good at doing phasing, and so they could implement the old storyline onto the new maps or onto the maps we have with phasing. However, instead of like just new maps every time like they probably did in the past. However, I think that they'd have to do it from scratch almost, right? Like they can't dissect their old map and add it as a phasing element to the current map. I think they'd have to do it from scratch.
Yeah,
I think
that's a big problem, right? That's a really big problem, and so I think that maybe there could be other ways to implement this. I think this is something we talked about on a previous Tea Time. Actually, I imagine if various events could be almost reimagined as a festival, right? So that the marionette could become a festival, for example, right? Or the Karka event could become a festival, remembering the time when we were attacked by weird things coming out of the sea or something like that, and it could be almost like recycled into different content. Or again, like this is going to be You'll never see this one coming, guys, but like some of this stuff could come back as a fractal, right? In some ways, right?
Like it did.
Like it did, exactly.
Well, okay. So this is a whole other side. I don't want to keep us on the season 1 thing for too long. I to be devil's advocate for a second, I really hate the fractal idea, and I've always really liked it because.
So you don't like the molten facility fractal?
No. I like the fractals. They're okay content, and in terms of like getting a new fractal in the game without spending too long creating new assets and stuff, that's brilliant. Like the Nightmare fractal, reusing a ton of Tower of Nightmares stuff to imagine something new. I think that's good from a developer efficiency standpoint. But as a function of telling those stories and introducing you to Rox and Bram, getting thrown in with no context into just a mini adventure, I think it's useless. And I think that like route through the game, if I'm a new person who's just picked up Guild Wars 2, it's like, cool, I want to get into the story. I keep hearing my friend talk about how cool the story is. So let's figure out, how do we meet Rox? And then you're going into fractals and you're navigating the fractal UI. It just, to me, it doesn't work. It's also huge chunks of the Aether Blade facility and the Molten facility are the hideout. Sorry, they're not even playable. People think now, those have been re-implemented season 1. Not really. I mean, you break out of those fractals, you explore them. There's tons of stuff there that we just don't have playable. I really, really don't like the fractal idea. I think it would be such a poor idea to try and get all of Living World season 1 in through them, and I think it would be a mistake to go down that road at all. Because who does that satisfy? Where does that go? Fractal players get sort of mediocre reimagined stuff that they had before at best. That's
Fractals is amazing. It'd be really good.
Fractals are great, but you don't have to constrain fractals to the creative limits of various shadows of season 1. You could do fractals on anything and have the awesome fractal stuff be the awesome fractal stuff. Season 1 needs to come in for that very specific purpose of creating a through line from character creation through to the death of Zaitan, through to that start of season 2 where you're just dumped at the start of Dry Top with some randoms. Like, that feels so bad.
How would you implement it currently into the game to make it fit in the world?
Season 1?
Yeah.
I would just have it in the story journal, man. I would just like you can visit Old Lion's Arch as a
part of bundle of
Yeah, it would just, if you need to go back to Old Lion's Arch, just the same as you do in the core story, you'd go back to Old Lion's Arch, you'd watch it get destroyed. It would literally be a story journal function. I don't know about marketing it. I don't know about selling it. I don't know about resource allocation to develop the whole thing. But it started as a really silly joke I was saying a while ago. But I genuinely think season 5 being season 1 would be amazing. I really think it'd be so good to finally have that like cohesive line through the game. And then the next expansion after that. Come on.
I don't know about that. I'd rather just come in as a package. Yeah. I'd rather have a season 5.
Really? You would rather? I wouldn't. Come on, man.
But okay.
I mean, I'd love to have season 1 as well, but
let's imagine a scenario in which it becomes a season again, another season. Season 1 becomes season 5, and they say, all right, wait, what?
I'd say it will be a weird disconnect, right? If you did season 1, then season 1, then expansion. I mean, what's going on there? I mean,
The moment that ArenaNet announces this, that the story is not progressing and we're not getting new lands, we're basically degressing.
Yeah, think of it that way. Think of it like ending on a cliffhanger in this current season, saying, "Oh, we have to go to Cantha for whatever reason," and then you have 6 months of doing season 1 again.
Yeah, that's hype. Think about how intense everyone would be. Everyone like, "Oh my god, you really got to get it," and then you're looking at Canthan ties and stuff. I know it's not marketable. I know it's not. You're all completely correct, and this is why it's not happening. But if you want that perfect Guild Wars 2, they have to find a way to do it. Look, current events can carry the torch for main.
Nice. Yeah, like just finding a few NPCs out in the open, like that'll do. Yeah, that'll do it. That's good. Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's definitely sellable though. Actually, like to kind of to go on that point and salvage. I think it's sellable. 100%.
Just not in the sense of a new season.
Not in the sense of a new season.
It's definitely marketable.
Yeah, you could. It obviously would depend on how much it would actually take to get it going again. But yeah, you could absolutely sell. You could definitely sell this as.
You definitely have to tweak it though.
The origin story, it's good.
You probably have to tweak it to remove some stuff like the signpost stuff. You'd have to tweak it to make it all pretty enjoyable.
I don't think tweak is a fair word. It would be an overhaul, right? A tweak would never be enough.
I was being generous. You'd have to change it a little bit to make it sellable and not like I can't believe I bought this as episodes. And then this is content that they had for a while, And do you think it'll be harder to re-implement it than it was to create it in the first place? I don't think so. I think it'll be easier to re-implement it, right?
I think in terms of visual effects, models, asset creation, it will be easier. But everything else, I think it will be. Well, I don't know. I don't. They seem to have a lot of really I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but a lot of shoddy code and weird spaghetti code. Like, look at the way they talk about developing and patching dungeons these days, right? They act like it's an alien landscape. Yeah. The early stuff. So maybe they're really good at it now and efficient at it now. So you could say it would be easier to recreate, but you know,
yeah. Anyway, so I just think that if they do implement it, people would buy it, and that's just. Obviously not free money because there's resources being put towards it, but it's sitting there.
So Deroir, so everyone tell me what's your release cadence then? What do you do? How do you squeeze this all in?
What do you mean?
Do you eliminate one of the current 3 Living Worlds season 5 teams? What do you do?
Really that, I guess.
I think that's where the main hurdle is, really, honestly.
There is a potential for it, like freeing up an entire team, like you just said. If we just assume that season 5 is not as ambitious as the previous seasons in terms of like actual content scope, it's definitely possible to release people in that sense. But I don't know if that's
my concern
really
with the hybrid approach,
I guess, for the community.
My concern with the hybrid approach would be things move too slowly, right? Like Team 3, like Nike's saying there, the guys that did corner, let's move them. You know, how long is it going to take them?
Do you want that? I mean, I don't know.
Or better yet, currently there is one guy, Jensen Blackerschmidt, who has been working on it since season 1 finished, and he's the one guy working on it.
Just that one lad sitting there in the back.
That's all he does. Yeah.
Gonna get a medal
like action combat. It will just come in with an expansion out of nowhere, and there'll be one guy that's like, "Yeah, I made this."
Exactly. Yeah, his little side
just
project.
like all the changes to GW1.
yeah, man. With Bill Price and co.
I think the only way they could do this is actually if there was some downtime between the season and the expansion, but I don't think that's going to happen. Is it? It's going to be straight through, right? They could say finish season 5, right, and so there was going to be 4 or 5 months in between. They could try and like scrabble to fit it in there, right? With some of the team who weren't working on the expansion. But
would it be bad to like have it as a 200 gems each, or you get it rolled into a certain price point of the next expansion?
Man, it's got to be what they really need.
You can't release it with another expansion. You can't do it at the same time because it's too much. It's content overflow. It's too much for people. If you buy no
value from.
What if you pre-purchase it, the expansion, you get it?
No, that's not. It's too much work for a little asset there. They should. Deroir's right. I think they should space them out because you get more value out of it there. But here's slightly. Did anyone else want to say something on season 1? Because a very similar topic here. And Deroir, I think I haven't watched it, but I think I saw you do a video. But did you do a video recently about the future of the studio?
The game. That was basically it.
So a slightly related topic, talking about the future of things. We're talking about all these splits. What do you guys think about just from ArenaNet? Do you think that they have a sell at the moment? Trucking something else out? Where does that slot into the...
Oh, do you mean GW3?
Well, maybe, or a new franchise.
I don't believe there's anything else on the table.
You don't believe there's anything on the table?
I have. There is zero. To me, there is zero indication that anything else is going on. Anything.
They can't.
Well, they don't want any indication, right? It's got to be secret.
Sure.
Not true, but like,
there's got to be something else.
There is no table.
You, as a company, you can't just like all eggs one basket. You know, you gotta.
But they've done that for literally 15 years now.
No, that's not really true at all.
Sorry, 12. Kinda, right? 2.
They went to the Guild Wars 2 idea really quickly. Context for Guild Wars 2, you know, by the time Guild Wars 1 was it was dead and gone. It was over. Like, I think that they've got something cooking. I think they've probably always had something cooking. I just think they've had no confidence in whatever it is that they've had cooking. And it might have been scrapped and then remade and then scrapped, all behind the scenes, obviously. But so Deroir, how do you answer to what Boots just said? How does a company go all eggs in one basket? Guild Wars 2 is going to be on a steady decline, right?
But
or are we going to get an old school RuneScape style situation?
The thing is, I guess the fact of the matter is that we're not on a steady decline. We're quite the opposite, actually. Ever since the game's release, the revenue has only been rising. It ebbs and flows like any expansion, any MMO, but we're on the rise. If you look at the entire spectrum from the launch of the game, we're at a like extreme high revenue point. It's not a dying game. It's not as steady of a decline as people make it out to be. The only place where it dips down, or the only moments where it dips down, is in between the expansions. But it's still held up by millions and millions, just by the season releases and the gem store.
I think you got a really good point. Yeah,
it's an incredibly high revenue. Yeah.
It's cool to hear you have the confidence to say that, because I think I certainly don't have the confidence to say.
No, but that's exactly it. Because I kind of went back as to like the video that you were referring to. I kind of went back because there was a lot of rumors going on that the game was dying and whatnot. And I found every single one of the quarter releases, like the revenue quarter releases, and there is no indication of the game being in any sort of decline in that regard. It's quite the contrary.
But it doesn't need to be in decline to want to diversify your portfolio, because like even Blizzard with WoW, which is the highest selling MMO, and it has like, you know, the most revenue and had the most revenue, and at the time it had the most revenue, they were still developing in the backseat Titan, which is another MMO, or was supposed to be another MMO to replace World of Warcraft in some ways.
I mean, that's a beautiful that's another segue there. Sorry.
We're also kind of talking about two different like brackets or tiers of revenue. Yeah, it's a completely different scale. They do have the extra funding to have bigger teams or more.
Bates has got a point though, right? Like even if it's going steady, and I'm willing to believe that, even if it's the revenue-wise it's slightly going up, it becomes a question of ambition, right, and passion. Do you think then Deroir, a company of what didn't they expand to 400 employees a while ago, right?
Yeah, they did.
Do you believe that that's all purely carried on the enthusiasm and love of Tyria and this flavor of MMO, and that there's no other ambition outside of that from anyone, that this is it? You don't think that there's the slightest chance they'll be looking to do something else as well?
There's always a potential for a chance to exist, but
a sizable one. Okay, fair enough, but a sizable chance.
I don't think so. I think they're just putting more eggs in the basket for what is the Tyria, Guild Wars 2, to make it more interesting of a selling point, to have that revenue flow just increase over time or stay on that increase.
Right. Well, anyway, you bring up Tyria, and I'm thinking that even if they do have another game going, it will be within the lore and realm of Tyria, their IP Tyria. They have developed this world, the lore of this world, and I think they're not going to abandon it for something completely different.
Yeah. So here's the fun thing you just mentioned with Titan. When you're an MMO studio, it's a very, very strange thing to make a sequel to an MMO. And I know people like talking about Guild Wars 3, but there's a reason Blizzard, with all their fund and power, turned their back on Titan. That's because all you do is cannibalize your own audience. You tell everyone to shift from one product to the next, and the next product will not release in a state with the same baseline feature spread and all that stuff that you had before. So I personally, I don't know about you guys, I don't think that we'll ever see another MMO from ArenaNet.
No. I agree. I think we had this conversation before, right, WP, one time?
Maybe, I don't know.
If we ever get anything from ArenaNet, it will be a completely different IP. Like
Polymorph,
everything will be
different.
Wow, you guys think it's gonna be another IP? Nah, man. They're gonna do if they're gonna do anything, they're gonna do Guild Wars 3. Definitely. I think
they're gonna stick to Guild Wars 2 for at least another. I don't know. I'm easily gonna say 10 years.
10 years? The thing. 10 years. Here's the thing. Here's what I'll buy from them, right? I don't think it's smart to do a new MMO. So what they can do is change one or the other. They can change the IP and do a new game genre. So it's still Tyria, but it's an FPS or whatever, right? It's an RTS, it's whatever, right? But it's still
Tyria. And Hydras.
If they hold it as Tyria, if they're doing a Dark Souls clone, but it's Tyria, whatever they want to do, if it's still Tyria, I'll buy it. Or I'll buy a new IP, but the same mechanics and philosophy, potentially even another MMO, but it's a different IP. So they go like sci-fi now, and they go, something that's on the other end of the spectrum, a complete underside of the coin so that they don't cannibalize too much. But I won't buy them both together. I wouldn't take an FPS in a different IP from ArenaNet. Because why? What trust as a consumer have they engendered that they know how to pull that off if they're changing the entire face of their games? I mean, I would cover it because it's ArenaNet, and but if I put myself in the mind of just a normal fan, an enthusiastic fan, I don't think I could do both at once. I think
so sci-fi, huh?
Yeah,
you're talking Guild Wars in space.
Yeah, man.
We're back to it.
Guild Wars in space. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be Guild Wars in space is the next game.
No, one kind of there has to be something that ties the already existing customers to the next.
So would you not be interested either, Teapot, if they did the double step away?
If it's an FPS, I'm out.
The double step away, that would be interesting. I would probably try it, actually, because I do. There's a bit of ArenaNet. We meme on ArenaNet here on this podcast, but I actually think that they have a lot more going for them. They deserve a little more credit than perhaps they get a lot of the time. Actually, I think ArenaNet will pretty much do something good no matter what they do. Actually, I have a lot of confidence in ArenaNet as a company. Like, it might be a bit of a noodle, and at some point there might be some noodle code. There might be a few issues. Okay, but I would have confidence in ArenaNet no matter what. Actually, they get a lot of bashing, but I think it would probably be good. So I'd certainly try it. I'd certainly try it no matter what. Actually, even if it was a double step away, I'd probably have a go. But I'm not sure I'd be particularly interested, because I would certainly be more excited when it comes to hype. Right, I would be more hyped if it was Guild Wars 3, right, over than basically anything. Like Guild Wars 3, yes, okay. Hall of Monuments in Guild Wars 2, yes, okay. Let's go. Okay, let's really separate the noobs from the tryhards.
How would you feel about? Oh, I've got so many questions. First of all, how would you feel if they called it Guild Wars 3 and it was all branded Guild Wars 3 and stuff, but it's not an MMO?
It's not an MMO.
So that's the half step away.
It goes back to instanced Guild Wars 1 type of content.
Oh, well, that's a whole. I like that. I think that's a tangential game that the studio can release, definitely, because they're very different styles of game. They're different RPGs with different fan and user bases. I think ArenaNet could engender a lot of goodwill with their audience by doing a new game. It can be the same IP, but it's a Guild Wars sequel. It's True Wars. Do you know what I mean? It's like the actual sequel, and they could do very well with that. With the success of other hub-based games like PoE and stuff going on at the moment, they could do really well with that. I would totally.
But then it has to be in space, because that's the only way I'll accept it. Oh my
God. You just want space. Why do you want space?
Well, because that's where we're heading in Guild Wars 2.
We're not going to space.
We've already been there.
We're going to space.
Here's a real example of a half step that people have long talked about and loathe the idea of in general, but I don't know about your opinions. A very real half step we've all been wondering about. It's a mobile card game.
Probably Mount Go.
We've talked about this several times here.
Yeah.
I've missed your discussions. What's the skinny? Are you all cynical, or are you all willing to give it a shot? It's the same topic, right? There you go. That's a half step.
Yeah.
I don't know about a card game, but I definitely see to me, it feels like it could be pretty easily implemented and then combined with Guild Wars 2, in that you could take somebody's mini pets that they have in their collection, and then that's their what they use on their phone. That's their cards or whatever. And yeah, just make a game based around the stuff you unlock in Guild Wars 2. And then you could also maybe through your phone buy new mini pets that get unlocked in Guild Wars.
I don't know. Personally, I just find that to be a slippery slope for any company to partake in, so to speak. No, because it's like you're devaluing your own game to become a mobile IP. I mean, it's just. I mean, maybe that's just my perspective of mobile games in general. But
how do you feel about what Bethesda did with Fallout Shelter and the Fallout franchise? Do you think that was to
degradation?
I don't exactly.
Witcher.
Sorry? No. I'm saying Bethesda with the Fallout franchise. They made a game called Fallout Shelter, which was a mobile game. And my point is, was that to the degradation of the Fallout brand? I don't think so. Wasn't it an okay ancillary product?
True.
I think it's fine as long as they actually integrate. As long as they make it almost like an attachment to Guild Wars 2, I think it wouldn't devalue it at all, right? Like, make it integrate in some way, like what you do in you just make it maybe even make it go both ways, like what you do in the card game or the mobile app or whatever affects the game, and you can actually get some stuff in the game that affects the card game or the mobile app, something like that. Having it interconnected, I think would actually be very good. I think that would in fact be extremely favorable to the game.
Yeah.
That's certainly what.
Because you might get some mobile players that get converted into play Guild Wars 2 instead,
which would be an easy sell because Guild Wars 2, when it comes to the MMO genre, which is I suppose considered to be more of a hardcore gamer kind of area, would be an easier sell for a more casual mobile gamer. Because, well, I mean, Guild Wars 2 is a more casual MMO. Like it's much more friendly.
And Guild Wars 2 has all these incongruencies within it. So it's like a casual MMO, but quite demanding on hardware even to this day. Lots of keybinds and stuff. Like there's a lot of questions of accessibility that Guild Wars works against itself.
But you never actually have to go that far into the game.
Actually, I disagree. I think that more the game's gone forward with all the mount keybind is a pretty essential part of the game now. Special actions. There has been creep over the years, I think, personally, to get real enjoyment out of it.
True. Special action, you're right. That is being used a lot more in story instances all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, on the topic though, before you move on, just a slight industry factor, I guess. Would it be wise at this moment to invest in any kind of RNG based game in that sense? Because our card games are just RNG games. You pull out a booster pack and you.
So have you got a very specific dislike on the card game angle of it? Is it? I mean, I don't like it either.
I do, but also we've very recently had the entire RNG, the entire section of what's it called? The RNG aspect in loot boxes. Thank you. Right. Disabled in Poland, and it is not the only EU country that's pushing for that to happen right now.
Belgium, not Poland.
Belgium, Denmark. I mean, I'm right in the crossfire here.
So are things like the mini pet packs, booster packs in the gem store disabled?
I don't know exactly.
The entire gem store is disabled. You can't.
No, it was for a short moment, and then they changed it later on. So it's only like RNG things are not allowed if you're on a Polish IP, I believe. And most of Europe is basically looking at that to happen right now. I mean, clap to you, Brexiters, but I mean, running out of this.
We're out of here. But I do want to kind of address this. I said this on stream before, but it's just it does make me a bit sad that people are so. I mean, loot boxes are like mega cancer. Okay, let's not. I'm not going to deny that. But like, Guild Wars 2 is such a fair game in my opinion when it comes to its
true,
the way it's monetized, right?
It's not Guild Wars 2 getting specifically targeted though.
Yeah, I know they're bashing everyone, but like it's so unfair. Like, and even honestly, I would extend it to everyone. Really, like, yes, loot boxes are kind of crappy. Well, stop buying them then. Like, no one's forcing you to. You don't have to buy them. I don't understand. Like, why can people not? They just I just like I'm drawn in. I'm transfixed by this loot box.
The issue is that that's exactly the case.
That's exactly the argument. That's why politicians feel
what
they
do you
need
mean?
To get involved. It's
what is wrong with
people out there that they believe they cannot control.
There's addictions,
there are people
man.
that can, and so they basically just put this like blanket gambling law into effect, and shit, it's affecting everyone because it's so vaguely worded.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the trouble with that kind of legislation, I suppose. In general, it's everything kind of gets tarred with the same brush because you can definitely say that there are some like really really anti-consumer monetization programs in a lot of games. I'm looking at you, EA. Okay, but Guild Wars 2 is not one of them, right? It's a little bit. It's a little
not,
bit
but it's still there. Like if you have an addiction, you could get your addiction. You could definitely have detrimental effects because of your addiction in Guild Wars 2.
Wasn't there something I heard about when they moved the Ecto Gambler right next to the TP, and then they were forced?
They
you guys
moved
heard
it.
this anecdote? Can you tell the full story there?
I don't remember the entire thing, but there was some controversy of somebody. This is how I remember it. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody basically reaching out and saying this is too much, and they kind of just had to remove it, like change it.
This is total hearsay, and I just want to preface that. But as far as I remember, the situation was I'd heard they'd moved the Tarkton right near the TP, and it got so much activity and utilization, like an absurd amount. and it proper blew up in their face. So then they had to move it back. Like, so even just little things like that, like you'd be surprised what can affect. I agree with you though, Teapot. I think this game's Arena, what's going on currently with microtransactions, loot box, RNG is enough to give any major player in the games industry pause right now. It really is.
Exactly.
ArenaNet included, but I reckon ArenaNet don't have to worry as much as
no. I mean, they are definitely a lot kinder when it comes to that kind of thing. Like the only time they had like a real pushback was with the mount licenses, and that was because, well, first of all, nobody really likes it, but also it was because it came like right at the same time as the controversy in other games got really heated, like
Star
Wars Battlefront, exactly. So it was just really terrible timing to implement that into the gem store at the time. But yeah, I think yeah, Belarus is not so bad at it, but I'm not saying Belgium's wrong.
Regardless of whether or not it's like fair, because I agree, it's a very fair system in Guild Wars. But regardless of whether or not that's the case, when everyone's getting painted with the same brush, does it really?
You're being the pragmatist here.
Yeah, is it a safe bet to invest in something that soon, perhaps, maybe, I don't know, the entire EU population, which is arguably one of the biggest contributors to EU Guild Wars revenue. I mean, is it wise to create something that they cannot partake in fully?
I think you've hit on something really interesting and deep, actually, that goes a lot further than just the premise of a card game. You know, we could talk about any flavor of the month game arena. We're going to have a Tyrion battle royale, guys. It's going to be amazing, right? You know, whatever it is, a huge part of financing these experiences and products now is through that kind of stuff. Not just microtransactions either, but also the RNG baked in aspects of it, right?
Yeah.
So it does kind of hit everything, really. I wonder how much they're concerned of that with their bottom lines and stuff. How much you integrate that into the gameplay.
They'll have to find a new way to sell stuff.
If they're even doing anything. But I believe they are.
I think Arena are probably very confident in their ability to sell cosmetics and stuff like that, and not rely on the RNG aspect of it. I think from their experiences, in fact, they're so confident that they even put they even put the like the skins. You can get them basically as a drop in the Blackland chest now, and they still think that people are going to buy all of them, right? And buy all the skins. So I think they can probably just get away with it. I'd be really interested to see how many people actually buy Blackline keys. It's probably quite a lot, isn't it?
It's probably fucking insane.
How many do you buy, Teapot?
Oh, I buy a lot, but I buy most of mine with gold. That's the thing. I buy mine with gold most of the time. I do buy some of them with cash as well. But I actually, to be fair, I after I open the keys, I'll kind of like do some napkin maths on if you get value, and you'd be surprised how much value it actually is. It's not as bad as you might think, actually, especially if you have some RNG on your side. I've even made profit sometimes, right, on some of the keys, right? It doesn't happen very often, right, but it does. It
also helps that you consider anytime you get a statuette to get a booster profit.
Oh,
sorry,
yes,
which is every single time.
Sorry, I'm a little out of my depth here with what's going on. Where do keys fall? The premise behind Blackline keys in terms of the RNG aspects of microtransactions, is that the kind of thing that will be persecuted, for want of a better term? Is that what they're going to be having to cull away? Because I agree, it is a lot.
It's exactly what it is.
Be right.
Yeah, that's.
Do we know?
That's exactly one of the things. Yeah, it's a loot box.
Belgian players cannot play or buy keys.
Yeah.
But it's not just keys. It's now
mounts
just
as well, and
it's now,
and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Any RNG aspect, and
anything that could be considered some form of gambling is naughty, not allowed. So yeah,
it would be really
be
strange to see ArenaNet look at like an alternate monetization method one day. Like they are kind of the kings and well known as like the no sub fee guys, you know, and that's wearing away over. That's not a distinct attribute anymore. But it would be really interesting for them to swing the pendulum in the other direction and say, do you know what? Microtransactions suck. RNGs suck. This is now the most consumer-friendly way to do it. We promise. I was talking about this the other day. Because, again, I agree with Teapot that they're actually really good. They outlined some stuff in 2012 about their gem store, about selling cosmetics, about not selling power creep and stuff. And I'll tell you what, I haven't seen, and I've got limited perspective, obviously, right? Because I'm a bit of a monogamer for this. I haven't seen anyone stick to their guns as well as Arena. Look how many MMOs just explode because of greed and poor cash shop handling. ArenaNet has stuck to that bullet point list hardcore. So what I would actually say is if they announce, yeah, we're doing a new thing, it's going to be funded through a sub fee. There is no transaction shop whatsoever, no RNG. We realize what sucks about that. Promise this is something. I'll tell you what, there is no other game company out there, none, that would actually trust more than Arena. They've actually engendered a lot of trust. I think they would stick to it. And not just for like the first year, for like a decade. I think it would be like, yeah, I pay the sub fee, I get all the content, and there's never a compromise on my fun because of a cash shop. I would actually follow ArenaNet in a sub fee game, which is bizarre to hear myself saying. I would do it because I think they really have stuck to their guns.
I don't particularly mind sub fees. I understand that a lot of people play Guild Wars 2 to kind of get away with it, right? To try and get away from the sub fee. You see stuff like World of Warcraft, which is the prime example, right?
We live in the age of free games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think more and more it will be a tougher sell to the general gaming populace to try and get away with a sub fee, I think. But I certainly wouldn't mind it, especially if it allowed you to get all the stuff for free. Like, imagine if you could, all the stuff in the gem store became actually obtainable in the game, right?
Yeah,
in exchange for a sub fee. Like, that's an interesting one, right? That's
also a lot of extra work.
No, it's not a lot of extra work.
Just try.
I guess you could just add them to merchants. Yeah.
No, you mean the practical? Yeah.
To putting it into the game, that's a lot of work.
But just add it as like, I don't know, fuck it, like raid drops, fractal drops. I don't know.
You got to think about it. It's not just the gem store and what we've put in this little garden that we call this area, the UI. It's every update that's ever come to Guild Wars 2. Well, not everyone, because there's box prices and expansion boxes and stuff. But, largely that funding there, it's kind of everything, So it's the freedom as well. I mean, none of us are going to relate, really. Maybe some of us are empathetic a little. But if I get a new person into Guild Wars, the way that we were talking about pricing season 1 before, and the discussion never went fully in this angle, but it is a nightmare getting. Yeah, it's like, I got to buy the game, and I can get the expansion. I get all of these, but I don't get this season, and I don't get this season, and I got to pay for this bundle. It's very simple to all of us, but it is such a convoluted mess that it's a barrier. If you look at our MMORPG, anyone casually talking about getting into Guild Wars 2, there always ends up being these inevitable walls of someone's like, oh, how much does it cost? And then there's this convoluted wall of crap that this prospective new Guild Wars 2 player kind of has to decipher and understand the difference between what the seasons are. Yeah. It's all just because of the gem store price on those. And I don't know whether that's necessary from the devs, whether it's been smart, whether they can get rid of it. But you just imagine all of that being eliminated, It's not just about gem store stuff. It's the entire infrastructure of the game would just be like, yeah, you pay the sub, you get it all, mate. Done. And there's power to that. There's power to getting new people in. I don't know. I'm not saying I want a sub for MMA in 2018. No one's going to buy that, but
no, that's exactly. I think that's kind of the issue. Nobody's going to buy it. I said this just kind of in jest a second ago, but we do live in the age of free games, and it's becoming increasingly harder and harder for game companies to even spike up the price of just single player IPs, despite the cost of every single one of those games just increasing every single year. We're so used to dropping $50 or $40 or whatnot on a single game, but on a single game, the prospect of just paying $80 or $100 for a single game is completely preposterous now. And the idea of adding a sub fee is just kind of
it's one of the reasons WildStar stopped. WildStar kind of went away. It's one of the reasons Fortnite kind of replaced PUBG. It's the pricing structure is very important to games, and I think switching to that for Guild Wars 2 would not make much sense. And for a new game, I don't know. But you did make me come up with an idea that if anybody in chat uses it and creates a company, they need to give me 5% royalties. Netflix.
You best be claiming this copyright right now, man.
Right now, CM.
What's it called?
TM. I don't know. Netflix for video games.
Go on.
What, you pay a monthly fee for
a monthly fee, and then they have a
streaming service in it,
or what's it called? Steam with
It's not Steam. Wait, there's a pay for play Steam?
No, but like it's Steam with just any
but
free
you don't.
access
You
to
get
whatever. It's basically that where you're trying to create.
You
should
don't
try to
get
sell that idea to
Nintendo
Steam.
Switch. Oh,
Wait, what?
they have that started on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I mean, if
you're
you
late
have
on
a
that
PS
copyright.
Plus thing, you get like a
Yeah, but the
free
EA access is just EA stuff. I'm talking about like all
All
a bunch of
games.
different.
Nvidia
Yeah,
just did a thing as well.
A bunch of different people could like pay into it.
Shaman was tweeting about this. Nvidia just opened a streaming service where you can have a really
you can have a shit
laptop.
PC, and play.
And you, I think it's in beta right now, so I don't think you pay. But I think the idea is you pay for this service, and they stream on like crazy hype computers to you, and the only thing that affects you is latency. So there are minimum system requirements for you. But he was playing Guild Wars, and he wanted to know what happens if you like /wiki while you're on the Nvidia machine. What happens? Does it have an internet browser? And these are interesting questions, and that's what he was testing out. But yeah, that's kind of a similar thing, right? Because you just pay and then you get access to everything they can stream to you.
Cool.
And there was a service for this, like in 2008, that everyone was hyped about. Well, maybe it was a little bit later than that, and then it went bust, didn't it? I can't remember what it's called. On Live, maybe.
Wait, was it the one that said like, what is cloud gaming? Do you remember that advert?
Yeah, something like that.
Ah man, what was it called?
That's good marketing. That you remember that.
Yeah. I can't. It was orange. Was it? Oh, On Live? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, I think On Live. That's what I thought it was. As well.
Yeah.
And anyway, that went bust. But look, we're another decade forward now. People got a little bit better.
Netflix almost running at a profit now. No, it's still not at a profit. Still.
But what do you want to do? How do you want to do that with Guild Wars? Like with this game?
No, it would have to not be like I think what would happen is it's a bunch of subscription based stuff, non things that continue, just like single games, and then I guess the first MMO to sign on would be the only one they use because they could only pay a portion of their subscription to them every time.
I think we've slightly strayed away from
the future of Guild Wars.
Now we're saying, yes, Arena, you better, if you wanna do a sub fee, you're gonna go ahead and need to like sign on to Netflix.
Create
games.
Netflix.
Reinvent the wheel.
We can call it Redbox.
A little bit off topic. When it comes to like if we can, let's do a conclusion on like future IPs coming out of ArenaNet.
Okay.
If it was going to be me, if I had to guess, I would say that some kind of Guild Wars 3 is coming. I think if you look at guys, like this is always the conspiracy. Right? This is the conspiracy theory that everyone always looks at. You look at who ArenaNet is hiring, right? Okay, and look. Hiring a server developer for new systems? What could this mean? New engine that runs at more than 3 FPS, guys. Okay, RTX enabled, 2080 Ti, guys. Okay, boom, you're gonna have ray tracing in Guild Wars 3, guys. Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, let's go. RTX enabled, boys. Okay, next generation MMO. Because look, guys. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. All right. Actually, no, I'm not gonna say this because this is a really, really bad argument actually, but I'll make it anyway because I thought about it. Okay. Terrible argument. So I was going to say that when a new MMO comes out that has a good combat system, that will be an actual threat to Guild Wars 2. But then I realized, wait a minute, that's not really the case because a lot of the player base of Guild Wars 2 don't particularly care about that because they're a little more casual. So they're more into kind of like the world, the kind of like the cool art style, the way the gameplay is, the way you can kind of dip in, dip out, that kind of system. So actually, no, that's not exactly true. But it could certainly kind of slightly rain on the parade if it's also a little more casual friendly, which I think any modern MMO has to be, really, with the way gaming is these days. But I mean, I don't know. Like the reason why Guild Wars 2 hasn't ever really been scratched. Everyone always says, "Yeah, this is going to kill Guild Wars 2." Okay, I'm going to WildStar. Who says that? A lot of people say that.
Everyone.
Dude. Okay, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to
There's
WildStar.
Always
dead game, Arcade, dude. Guild Wars 2, trash.
Bless offline.
Bless on, yeah. I'm going to Bless. I suppose in Rocker, guys. Rocker was like, yeah, dude, I'm tryharding Bless online. I'm going over there. Fantaram was also the same. Yeah, dude, I'm tryharding Bless online. How that'll fucking work out for you? Okay. These things happen, right? And that's because like nothing can touch the combat system. Okay, that's reality.
So hold on. You think there will be a sequel MMO, which you're calling Guild Wars 3, right?
I'm kind of feeling it. Yeah.
So what is your answer to the cannibalization argument?
I think in the same way that you have Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, you just make it mechanically. Maybe you go the whole hog and you just go. you squeeze that hog, dude, and you make it fully open world. I think that would be pretty cool. Because of course, Guild Wars 1, you have the more instanced content, which certainly has a place. They could even go back to that, as we were talking about earlier. And then you have Guild Wars 2, which is kind of half open world almost. Like you have the maps are spread out into different sections, right? And you could go full open world, something like that, which would be much more like World of Warcraft, for example. Or you could go back to a more instance design, actually, more like Guild Wars 1.
So you are talking about actually creating a distinctly different game, right? Like it's Guild Wars 3, but it's very functionally different, just as Guild Wars 2 is to Guild Wars 1.
Yeah,
so that I can see, because then you don't necessarily cannibalize. And I'll tell you what I think they always should have done. They always should have had actual like full-time people sticking with support for Guild Wars 1, because then if we were in this situation where it's like, well, look, they've supported both games in tandem. There's still a very active Guild Wars 1, and there are active Guild Wars 1 players, but just not many. All right, let's be real. If they'd proved that they could support multiple lifestyle products at once, Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, I'd be with you right now, and I'd say, yeah, man, let's go Guild Wars 3. But they haven't done that, and because they've never engendered that, shown that capability, that ability to let Guild Wars 2 continue to thrive. If they do a Guild Wars 3 and it's a different product, I want to see Living World keep coming for Guild Wars 2, even once the next one's out, because there are going to be people who like this product and want to see this product continue going on. But the devs have never proved they can juggle multiple games at once. And so that's where it all falls apart to me at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's I kind of think that's half true. You play quite a lot of Guild Wars 1 right now, as I understand you stream it as well. If you look at Guild Wars 1, it's not exactly doing badly. There's a lot of people who still play it, right? You still have people engaging in the PvP content. And certainly a lot of people doing the endgame PvE, right? That's still alive and well, right? You have people going for... I suppose a lot of people are just the kind of the title farmers, right? Who are going to upgrade their... they're going for God Walking amongst mere mortals, that sort of thing, for the swag. But I think it is almost a bit like an old school RuneScape situation. I think that Guild Wars 1 is still very much a loved game, and of course there's no new content, right? But you do have the events still rolling around, all like the bonus weekends and stuff like that, and you have that sort of thing going around. Like, so it's not exactly fully dead. I certainly wouldn't call Guild Wars 1 like a fully dead game.
All right, so I'm going to go on the attack here. I personally, I don't think it will ever be fully dead. But I think that designation, because obviously people always want to play it and the devs will always keep the servers up. But that designation's a bit of a weird one. There's a difference between a game having a population and a game that can represent itself as looking like it has a population. The thing about Guild Wars 1 is it is pretty much fully dead. But you only need a couple of people to be queuing in random arenas, like just a handful, and you'll be able to get a queue pop. You only need a couple of people to do a speed clear once a week, and it looks like Endgame's still alive. And the way that Guild Wars 1 works is everybody's at Kamadan. So you get like 2 districts of people at Kamadan, and it feels alive, but the truth is the game is like... I mean, there's kind of a discussion of at what point do we declare a game to be dead, and I would say Guild Wars 1 is in its coffin. It's in its coffin as much as anything else will be. It's propped up by a bit of developer activity this year. But that's what I mean. That's them actually supporting the game. But that's devs doing that off the clock. And that galvanized enthusiasm. And you're right, it's a loved game. It is a loved game. People adore that game, and they miss that style of game, especially because the sequel is so different. But I personally don't think... Like, so here's the rub of it. I would hate to see Guild Wars 2 become what Guild Wars 1 is now, because they've moved on to something else. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. That to me, that would be a dead Guild Wars 2. For Guild Wars 2 to go to that population level, it would be horrendous. And so that's why I would be very concerned about another product.
You're right, because not only you need people to inhabit the world to make it feel like a
and more so with Guild Wars 2 too.
Exactly. Yeah, for Guild Wars 1, it's always been instanced, so it's not like you need more than yourself to play it.
I can tell you there will be a lot of problems in Guild Wars 2 if the player base dropped a lot, because a lot of content simply requires players, right? Otherwise, it's going to be a bit wonky, right? It's going to be a bit difficult. So you would like to... So suppose that they did create a Guild Wars 3. Like, imagine this is actually happening. You think it would be... You would want them to have a few developers still developing additional content for the game? Is that...
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I think they'd have to do. They would have to go like 6 months before the Guild Wars 3 announcement. They have a different announcement. Say, all right, guys, we have expanded a little bit recently, and we saw how much you loved what Bill Freist and CW did with Guild Wars 1. We're putting them on there full time. There's going to be balance updates for Guild Wars 1 now. And a balance update means so much for the GVG. Reduce the OP, Derv, and Ellie stuff. Actually put stuff back and just having balance. There's just a little bit of an update. That you do that 6 months. You see, I don't know if you guys really watch the Guild Wars 1 subreddit. I'm always on there, right? You see how much it exploded with the slightest little patch, right? So you announce the team back for Guild Wars 1. 6 months later, you tell me that Guild Wars 3's coming, and you tell me that Guild Wars 2 continues getting updates. They can be less so, not 3 Living World teams and expansion teams, maybe just 1 Living World team, yeah? But that's how you do. And yeah, you have them all together, because here's the other thing. What's the point in doing Guild Wars 3 that's exactly the same as Guild Wars 2? You're going to change it a bit. Well, you've got 3 different products with 3 different communities that love them. Keep them all supported. Like, there's no reason not to, and that's only going to be to your benefit. And then, in a weird way, the Guild Wars IP, binding them all together, it's kind of working against you. If you've got 3 different games, I think that, they should be branded differently as well, and I think they should look different. I think it was a mistake to make Guild Wars 2 different to Guild Wars 1 mechanically.
So that's on the consumer side of things. That's how you feel you want it to be. But on the developer side of things, how do you feel developers feel about, for example, working on Guild Wars 1 stuff right now? Or
I think if they can hit a bottom line, if the devs can pay for themselves, then what that signals to the communities you're building. Like, because you got to understand as well, from the devs, it's not all about, nobody goes into video games really to make money. I know that's a real cliche, but like we were talking about this earlier. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Deroir was saying earlier, like, they're not on a steady decline. They're doing fine. They may even be doing a little bit better. The thing is, as a dev, right, as a company, even as an exec, right, you're not so out of touch that you've got no love for things anymore. What you want to do is not just constantly placate and be kind to your fair weather fans that only come in for a few hours every time a Living World release. You want to create a game that has a great representation out there and people love. You want to engender enthusiasm in your fan base and do right, because actually that's what it's all about, making people happy, right?
That's why I'm asking you about the devs for Guild Wars 1. It's now...
So yeah, they should want to do Guild Wars 1, even if it only allows them to pay for themselves and hit that bottom line, right, of the development investment. Because what you do is you say so much to your community. You say, hey, Guild Wars 1 fans, you guys are all right. We really like you. We'll do well by you. We're ArenaNet. We give a crap about this franchise in all its forms, in Guild Wars 1, 2, and 3. And that means so much. That's how you get fanboys. That's how you become the Nintendo of the MMO space, right? Where people actually defend you and push your products properly, right? Like, that means so much more than, oh yeah, screw Guild Wars 1, we're done with it now. Even though Guild Wars 2 is totally different. And then again for Guild Wars 3, like, that's the abyss to me.
But again, that's projecting to the customer. I'm talking about specifically for the developer, how they feel about working on a game that is, for all intents and purposes,
hire some fans. Hire someone that likes Guild Wars 1. What?
Because it has to be that.
It's got to be a labor of love, right? It's got to be a labor of love. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you're basically eliminating the potential for, like, ambition, I guess. You can't really push the game if you're not really in active development, and if it's just surviving or it's about making it survive for longer. I mean, you're basically just pushing that aspect out.
Anyway, but that's another reason why I think they are probably developing something outside of Guild Wars 2 in ArenaNet, because I think as developers, they like to develop things. And even though it's fun to develop for Guild Wars 2, I'm sure it's an amazing experience and a lot of fun. It's still also limiting in a lot of ways. So that probably they have developers on their team that want to create something new.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that there would be ambition, even though if it's an MMO, right? Because the counter argument to that is it's an MMO. It can provide you with so many different locations and types of gameplay. Look at Super Adventure Box, how different that is to core stuff. You can make those claims, but I still think that people will want something fresh, and they'll be looking to do other things. It's not just that, but as an exec, right? Guild Wars has an instilled fan base. You look at everything we've talked about so far in this pod, right? Like, it's all about Guild Wars. It's like, oh, let's do a Guild Wars-y card game. Let's do a sequel, a real sequel to Guild Wars 1. Let's do a Guild Wars 3. The thing is, like, there is a real opportunity there by creating a new brand and just really and I would defend any executive position on that, to say, oh no, I'm going to make a totally different MMO with a totally different world and lore base. I know that someone was saying earlier that Guild Wars has got so much great world building and lore, and people are enthusiastic about that and they won't shed it. But the Guild Wars people who love that are a certain size, and there are infinitely more people outside of that. So, as an exec, I think absolutely they'd look at new IPs.
There's probably something fun about for a dev taking a slightly outdated engine like the one using in Guild Wars 2 and pushing it to its limits, creating new clever things to make it more interesting. So that's probably like the moving platforms, for example.
Yeah, we're already seeing.
That probably satisfies a lot of people.
I imagine that. Yeah, I mean the stuff in Wing 6, right? I would say was. I think everyone was really. I imagine it was really fun to develop, right?
Here's a hilarious topic that I hate, but I'm going to throw it up. What do you guys think? The future of Guild Wars 2. What do you guys think about the fact that Blizzard actually updated the DirectX version of WoW recently?
Oh boy, this
new
is
DirectX,
guys. Okay, this is a mega meme. Like whenever I see this, I'm with you, Dovey. Whenever I see people complain about this stuff, I just kind of groan. It's like, guys, like, do you know how much effort it would require to like rework the engine completely of Guild Wars 2? Are you kidding me? I'm no game dev, right? Okay. So, I mean, I'm not exactly qualified to comment. But guys, are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck? I mean, why would you think that was possible? I don't even know, dude. Yeah, just rework the whole game. Just do it. Just rework the whole game. Just optimize the game. What are you doing? I think that will be... It's probably unfeasible. The only way they could actually do that is basically by doing Guild Wars 3, but instead of Guild Wars 3, it's actually Guild Wars 2.5, right? So instead of moving on to like a fresh start with new characters, they just say, you know what? We're going to do Guild Wars 3, but actually, it's only Guild Wars 2, except we rework the engine. It will be just... I don't know. Like, imagine like they'd have to like retrofit every piece of content they've ever made to work with the new engine. Yeah. It would be a meme fiesta. It would be, look, we already know the game is a spaghetti, okay? How many weird things happen in this game? Many weird things, okay? Imagine if you had to fully untangle the spaghetti and then retangle it in a different way. It would be brutal, okay? And look, Arena got bigger stuff on their plate, guys, okay? It's not easy.
So wait, you're saying it's not just doing Control F for DirectX 9 and replacing the DirectX 12?
There was an amazing post. I just put it in chat there. You can link to anyone to just immediately end the DirectX discussion, where one of the devs themselves, ArenaNet Johan, basically explains why it would be a pointless time waste of an endeavor and tries to explain to a basic degree why it's such a ridiculous thing to talk about. But you know what makes me really sad? When I just Googled to get that link, there's like a full page of Google responses of people opening Reddit threads and forum threads saying, DirectX 12, when please? DirectX 12. It's like, no, just over and over and over again. But
because obviously you should wait for DirectX 13.
So that's not in the game's future.
Obviously.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
Well, what do you know?
I think if they update the game, it will just be the next one. Okay, I think it's gonna stick with the same renderer for Guild Wars 2. And you know what, guys? Guild Wars 2 does get a little bit slapped for its performance, and yes, it is true. Even if you have a NASA supercomputer, you aren't going to run this game at 60 frames a second. That's reality. Okay, but honestly, it's not that bad. Okay, I know even I complain about this. I was like, why is my FPS below 60? What is this? It's trash. And yeah, that does happen sometimes. But on the whole, considering what's actually going on, it's not that bad actually. Like even in World vs. World. I mean, I suppose I've got a pretty hefty PC, and a lot of people do struggle in World vs. World. But if you think about how many character models it's running and how many the absolute eye cancer of effects it has to render, right? It's really not that bad actually, especially if you kind of crank the settings down a bit. But I don't know. It runs okay. It honestly runs okay.
Mostly people don't know how to use culling, I think, right? Is the point.
Yeah, effect LOD did.
To the audience, because you can go highest, and that means automatically the game's poorly optimized. But that's because you've taken the optimization in your own hands.
Now, speaking of which, Teapot, did you say you were getting like a 2080 with RTX enabled and all that stuff?
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Massive hardware. Okay, it's not gonna make
amazing.
Any difference.
How great will it be when off-screen effects from attacking a boss will now appear in reflections on your screen.
Well, I mean, it won't because it won't be RTX enabled. But dude, like, the concept is amazing. Okay, think about that. Oh man,
reflections of insane effects everywhere. I want it.
Yes.
Can I ask one more question to everyone? I don't want to go. The Guild Wars 3 thing is such a rich, amazing topic, right? So I've got a question for you all. And there's kind of a preamble discussion you have to do about like what is Guild Wars as an MMO? Like what is the bit that really means Guild Wars is Guild Wars? Okay, is it the living world experience and story? Is it the fractal scene, the raid scene? Is it the world versus world scene? And you'll realize that some of these scenes are not particularly favored by the devs. PvP, let's land on specifically. That it's not got the population it needs. It's not got the certain things that we would want it to have had. Anyway, so my question is, you've got a big, and MMOs kind of have to be a divergent in the focus. You've got a big divergent MMO in Guild Wars 2. A Guild Wars 3, would you imagine a Guild Wars 3 to have the big 3 pillars, first of all? World versus world PvP and PvE? Or would you accept a Guild Wars 3 that culled some of those away? Would you accept a Guild Wars 3 that did not try to have competitive player versus player, for example? Or where's your line? Which of those would you want to see? Would it be a disaster? Does Guild Wars 3 have to have all 3 just because its predecessor did? Shoot.
I think they would change. I think they would still exist because it's almost kind of mandatory to have some kind of structure. I think to have those structures in the game, like especially for Guild Wars 2.
Not necessarily world versus world.
Oh no, I think actually, I think they would double down on
world
it.
Is more interesting. I think PvP is the one that could easily get called away.
Yeah, PvP is the one that would get slapped. I think they'd probably, instead of tryharding PvP, like in Guild Wars 2, they tryharded PvP, right? They tried to go for it, right? They
didn't work.
It didn't work, right? Like I don't know, it didn't, for whatever reason. It didn't work. Okay, in Guild Wars, if they did Guild Wars 3, Guild Wars 2.5, or whatever, like some kind of new IP or whatever, I think they would actually try hard world versus world, and go and really. Honestly, you know, in the same way that Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 1 Beyond, right, was kind of like the precursor to Living Story in a way. I kind of almost see that alliances will be the precursor to whatever they would do in the future, right, and make it very meaningful, very tangible. If they took it to the open world, I can definitely see them like really try-harding the idea of like guilds taking over the landscape, like kind of be a bit like almost like factions, right? But much more impactful, really taking over stuff, going crazy, like battling across the land, and actually having some real-world impact. And I think raids, you're always going to have PvE. You're never going to get rid of PvE, right?
That what you just said is awesome, and it sounds like a really cool game. And I get why you're a fan of that. But let me just ask, is that Guild Wars?
It should be, because it's the name Guild Wars.
It might be Guild Warsier than...
Let's not go down the semantics of the name of the franchise. Well, maybe you've got a point.
It might be very PvP, though, right?
Up until now, we've had how many years of this franchise? That, to me, is not what Guild Wars is. And it's a weird thing. You're all right, and I agree with all your reasons for cutting PvP, but it's a really strange situation to be in, isn't it? When you look at the genesis of this IP and this studio and what they started trying to do with PvP, do you think that they would turn their backs wholly on it with Guild Wars 3? Especially considering most of the failure is due to the fact it releases a glorified beta in PvP, and that's about it.
Yeah. I think it would be more like a refocus almost, not necessarily turning their back on it. It's more like the times they are changing, you know? It's not quite... I think
that's valid. Yeah,
it could be more. It could be more Guild Wars than Guild Wars in a way, right? I mean, that kind of it doesn't like the original story that the lore of the Guild Wars kind of evoke that sort of thing though, like actual massive large scale clashes in open field, right? Rather than
it would be funny to do that, right? You know, it would be fun. I've never really thought of this, you know, because it seems so arbitrary to me, but it's such a hilarious and awesome idea to be like, no, let's do Guild Wars 3 and let's actually make it about the title for once.
Yeah.
You know,
seriously though, yeah.
It's a weird. That would be a very risky thing to do, right? Because I think that when people think Guild Wars, they think of other stuff now, you know, and it's got an identity problem, I think.
In the lore, when did the Guild Wars happen?
Figure out what that is.
So you want to do Guild Wars 0.5?
Yeah. When was the Guild Wars?
Oh, you want to do a prequel or whatever? It's about a period of like 200 to 50 years before the start of the game. In fact, kind of even right up to the start of the first game. So it's the period of history before the first game.
Do that.
I know.
I'm on board. I've always been of the opinion that World versus World is one of the most unique PvP type game modes that any MMO could ever implement. And I think like it has immense potential.
Instead of Guild Wars 3, Guild Wars Origins.
Yeah, but true, it's still unique. It's a unique MMO experience. It's like I've always found it kind of weird to put people in an MMO into like 5-man groups, PvP, whatever. When you have this opportunity to have immense amounts of players fight each other, like the World vs. World thing, just like game mode as a whole, it's just so unique to an MMO experience. I don't know. I could really see that flourish in a standalone game.
Because look, Guild Wars 2, once it's all said and done, is eventually going to end with the complete destruction of the world Tyria. So we have to have a prequel for Guild Wars 3. So it's got to be the Guild Wars.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting idea to
Guild Wars in space.
You just raised there, Deroir. It's kind of totally a good point in that. First of all, one of the core things about the Guild Wars franchise now, I think, is large, easy grouping and time respect and stuff, but open world, the dynamic event idea of tons of players around. And the funny thing is that does hook reasonably well, but from a balance perspective and like a scope perspective of what is this game, you could define the Guild Wars experience definitively as like large scale stuff, right? And that translates in your PvE stuff in their new version of meta events and their new version of dynamic events. And that would hook into World vs. World. Because you're very right in that, like, you take the game to a very different scale in PvP, the 5-man scale, that isn't necessarily gelling with everything else that that an MMO seeks to do, and the devs have gone to great lengths to try and make it gel with skill splits and whatnot. But even at launch, we had those problems. So it is an easy one to cull away, unfortunate as that is, because like the idea of an RPG where you're leveling a lot and there's loads of like variety to go for in terms of stats, but there's a lot of dead things that you'll never run. It doesn't mesh well with when you're trying to go for a really competitive arena style small scope thing. It would really upset me to see PvP go. But I think it is the most legit of them. So,
it would probably for a lot of people. I think it's the easiest one to call away.
Let's look at PvP right now. I mean, it looks a bit yikes, if you ask me right now. I mean, PvP is in a bit of a spot, really. I think to the point where even if they bring 2v2, I still think it's a bit tricky at that point.
2v2 won't do anything, I don't think.
It's still PvP just hasn't had much love, really. For a very long time. It's not particularly competitive anymore. If they brought Geocu back to kind of that cements that, right? They're like, okay, right, Joe, and then just go on, run amok, plebs, okay? And yeah, I think a lot of the community is a little disenfranchised with PvP right now, and I think that there are some issues with it, and it's kind of in its decline. It's the twilight of PvP right now. Ben is here, okay, and it hurts me to say that.
He's got thick
skin.
I
have to stop you. This is not right. This is self-perpetuating thing. I don't think it has to be the PvP twilight. It really doesn't. I don't think it's as bad as it is right now either. It does need changes. You're right, and as it currently is, it's not going to change in any major way. And I don't think there'll be some massive revival or upheaval here. But I think that it's a really dangerous road to go down and say that it's because you fulfill your own prophecy with that.
Right. You just you say it's the twilight of PvP. You just have to put that in the forge. Turn into eternity.
Oh God. Yeah, and we get the eternity of PvP, so baby.
Sunrise,
which is World vs. World. What? No. Oh.
Nice.
An eternity.
That was pretty good, mate.
Eternal battleground. Oh, what?
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice, dude. Okay, that was really good.
Yeah, but I mean, you got a lot of valid points about it, but I think that it's just as likely to maintain or uptick as it is to go down, and it's kind of a lot of it is perspective. There are changes that obviously that's a whole other topic. Actually, mind you, the theme of today's discussion is future of the game.
So on the topic of World vs. World and expansions and the future of the game in that case.
Yeah, go on.
Now that Mr. Potato here shared his idea for the future, what might happen. I'm going to share mine of what I want to happen. I want Guild Wars 2, the next expansion. Guild Wars 2 faction. This is what I want to happen. And I want there to literally be an open world World vs. World map that overlaps in between the 3 factions. That's what I want.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
Basically, okay, so imagine basically like a world versus world eternal battlegrounds triangle map in the center of everything, and dependent on which what's it called? Which faction that your alliance has allied with, you will start in either corner of the
You're
world.
A genius. They just delay the alliance update
and you
so long.
You like work your way into this triangle of like fighting each other.
That's a great idea.
That would be amazing. You could easily make it like go around all the like limitations of like POIs and whatnot. Like just whenever people enter this map, everything's unlocked. Like map wise, let's go. We're just fighting. It's just about fighting. And every other map is just detailed around the different factions. That's what I want to see. Yes.
The core of that idea of tying the alliance update to factions, that's like genius, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like just that alone is like really, really obvious. I mean, the thing is though, season 5, there'll be a long wait for those alliances.
Unless it's just season 1.
I mean, it's going to be a long wait anyway. To be fair, it's.
What was the last news on that? I remember that they did a stream and there was some devs like working away in their room, and someone asked in chat, "Hey, how long will it be?" And one of them really.
It was like, yeah,
it's
not
going to be a while
soon. It's going to be a while. Yeah.
Was that the last we've heard?
Yeah, I believe so. That was months ago, right?
Yeah, that was a while ago now. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is a long road. It's a long road to alliances. Unfortunately,
they were talking about it as early as this Friday. Only briefly. It was I forget his name. The one of the main dudes that's actually working on it. He was on the podcast, the Guild Chat, and they were talking about the projects the future projects that they were most proud of, I believe. And he was just talking about how he was super excited about the different codes that he got to use for the alliance system. All right. Raymond, thank you.
Look, we just created news there. Look at that.
Yeah. Ooh, there we go.
It's still moving along. Newest update. It's moving. Excellent. News has been made.
News.
Are we getting an overhaul, or not an overhaul, but are we getting looking for guild in game with it?
No, that's interesting. Actually, I've never actually even thought about that.
What do you mean? What?
That's actually
every time alliances are brought up, I have to bring up the idea of bringing in an LFG system, a looking for guild system, so guilds alliance, so it's easier to get your alliance. Because it'll be a big barrier to entry in Guild Wars 2 if everything's based off of guilds. In World vs. World, if everything's based off of guilds and you don't know how to get a good guild.
I actually really like that idea. Yeah. I've never actually even thought about that. Yeah. We kind of am missing a system like that, especially when not every single player is congregating in Lion's Arch anymore. They're all spread all over the place. So like the guild announcements in map chat don't really have that same flavor.
Yeah, it's true. And not everybody knows that you could go on like certain subreddits and stuff to find guild announcements.
Yeah. And there are a lot of things that could be quality of life fixed in the UI. To be honest, I think there are a few features that could be added, like fix the mail system.
So do you want to segue into that, like for the updates to the game? What are the really high priority things? Because like I think a really interesting threshold got crossed with the tonic system coming in. Because that was another check thing on a checklist, right? Which you
for build templates.
Well, yeah, build templates are a thing, but right, like there's this premise of these things that Guild Wars needs. You know, way back in the day, it was that you couldn't even transmute reliably. There was no wardrobe system. There was no this, that, and the other thing. Slowly over time, the checklist has been ticked off. I want to know, in all of your opinions, what you think is still on that list. Because, I mean, build templates are going to be number one, right? Everyone's going to say that.
But is that actually on the list?
It's not
internally.
On the list. It may be.
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe build templates at all.
I thought it was. Because when the guy for ArcDPS created the build templates inside ArcDPS, it was said that this is like a placeholder, like the developer that helped work on it with him said it's kind of like a placeholder until we develop our own build templates, essentially.
But in there is just the potential. I don't believe that they have even
I think it's somebody. I think
it's one of those things that are on the table but not on the list.
I think Jacqueline Blashmidt is working on that as well.
It's 100% being worked on, right? I actually think that a lot of what we've seen in the UI recently, with the hero panel especially, hero panel remembers its position, the underwater tab just got added there, the novelty stuff all integrates through it. I think build templates will appear on the hero panel, and the earlier updates we've seen and the continual little changes to that, gathering items being skinned, all of that, that's just like preamble and going on in tandem with the build templates update, I think, because it's all going to be on that bit that you.
Okay, then to kind of latch onto this idea, because we're not going to have an expansion for a while, in theory. Do you think we're going to have a bit of a feature pack situation going on, that sort of thing?
What, and the transition between 4 and 5?
Yeah, say in the transition there, maybe get some of that action.
Dude,
there.
I'd be game for that. Yeah. That would be a great time for build templates.
Build templates and alliances as well could potentially fit in there as well, right? In maybe that gap potentially. That sort of thing, or say a PvP update as well could fit in there. Like it could be another competitive update again, right? As we had previously, that sort of thing could kind of fit in there. You get build templates in there, alliances, maybe some, I don't know, like a new PvP map, that sort of thing. I mean, these things.
Maybe you can sprinkle in a fractal.
Sprinkle in a fractal, and you know what, guys? Okay, you know what they sprinkle in as well? Elite specializations.
No.
Oh my god! You think that?
That's not gonna happen.
Dude, okay, just a tiny bit behind the scenes for people. Just before we went live, you mentioned the elite specializations. You were about something. I thought the topic was going to be that they might abandon elite specializations completely.
Oh, no,
Your thought is they'll do an extra set.
Yeah. Okay, we're going elite specs inside. Yeah. Another
I don't think they wanted.
This is coming from the guy that before the last Living World thing said that the upgradable armor was going to be upgradable to legendary.
I thought it was going to be legendary, man. What the hell?
That's fair. I'm on board with that. That could have been a thing.
No.
Come on, that could have been a thing. That's not that. I mean, it is.
I was gonna say it could be quasi-legendary, kind of like the Bloodstone rings that you change the stats that way. Yeah.
The universe I'm living in is the universe where we never have another expansion, right? So suppose this is where I would say that there are going to be elite specs on the side, right? Suppose that ArenaNet actually do want to move away from the expansion mode. I want to go into a very much a fluid, constantly updating living world meme, right? I suppose that's going to happen. Then surely they'd have to do some kind of alternative, right? They'd have to add elite specs some other time, some other way anyway.
But right? I think that assumption's wrong. I think the original assumption's wrong that they're not going to have another X spec. I think they're going to, and I think the elite specs are going to come in that, because I think that when you say that there's not going to be another expansion and then they have to put elite specs somewhere else, that means that they have to find a way to sell those elite specs to people.
Dude,
so they're gonna
this would be really weird, but if it was one per Living World release, that would be crazy. Yeah. Do you remember the hype people used to have for a new legendary weapon coming out, and they're like, "Oh, that's my class." Hype. It would be like that. It would be like that. Yes, would be like, "Oh, I'm a mesmer."
Sure, that would be very hype. But do you really think that they're going to implement an entirely new specialization for each class?
Well, if we're living in Teapot's world, Teapot's his world that they're moving away from X-Packs. I could see it, and I see where your whole mindset is right now, because you're a believer in Guild Wars 3 too, and the notion being you can get rid of the X-Pack team to go build Guild Wars 3 and convince everyone else that Living World can do the whole lot. And because that's their line. Look at the 6th anniversary things. And the game director said, Living World can do the lot. It can do everything. We can add mounts. We can add this. We can add that. And if they want to prove that, it has to be elite specs in Living World. So if we live in Teapot's world, I'm on board with it.
And I can kind of see.
I just don't think we live in that world.
Okay, imagine if instead of an expansion, you just got an entire season of Living World all at the same time. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but
season 1?
That would be harder than an expansion.
It will be kind of like that, though, right? In a way. I mean, what was Path of Fire, except essentially like a bunch of living worlds all
it
kind
was
of stuck
4
together.
Releases, right? Broken into 4 acts.
Big ones, to be fair, like very, very big ones. Like there's obviously a lot of meat story content-wise in the expansion. Living Story. They're less. They're not that much less substantial, though.
Man, doesn't it? Come on, look at some of the stuff that they did this recent release.
No, I mean in terms of like actual playtime, right? Like actual instances, that sort of thing. Because Path of Fire's got a lot of beefy instances actually in it, right? Quite a lot of stuff to do.
I did a replay of POF just a couple of months ago, and I found that as soon as you get out the spoilers, the bit where you die and come back, as soon as that's done, it blitzes.
What happened?
It blitzes by like the back actually bombs out really quick.
Yeah,
I genuinely think the 6 episodes of this season 4, I think already the 4 we've already got, they already dwarf the expansion itself.
Oh, okay.
No joke.
Yeah.
If you go playtime for playtime, that's before achievements and stuff. I don't know how that will. But it's already beaten it, I think, blow for blow. So by the time we get to 6 episodes, so you're talking about releasing a whole Living Worlds season at once. I mean, content-wise, that's bigger than an X-Pack to me.
No,
that's
I don't think they would. I don't think they would do that. I'm just saying, as a point of comparison, right? To the point about can the Living Story do it all? It kind of can, right?
Right. I see what you mean.
My question is, why would they do that though? Why would they say no X-Packs instead just a full season? Because the full season, you're saying that then they're going to get money off of microtransactions and you won't have to pay for the full season. But they're getting a huge influx of money every time they release a new expansion.
We don't know the balance of that though, do we? We don't know whether it's the expansion boxes are actually worth that much compared to the microtransactions. And I think the idea is to get the expansion team to go make.
But there's every time there's an expansion in the quarterlies, there's an uptick.
Yeah. But,
oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, that's silly of me.
That's absolutely true. But imagine how it's going to look in the quarterly when there's a new game. Okay, a new game. This time they can do a new game and not ban Kripparrian. Okay. They can do that, right? Okay.
You think that was the reason it didn't overthrow WoW? Is because they banned Kripparrian?
That's not why. No, it's not why. But I'm just saying that's some promotion right there. Okay, you can, you can get all the because at least for the first day or week, any new title that's halfway relevant will get played by the big boys, right? So you'll get a lot of promotion.
It would be
that, right.
It would be a massive uptick. Yeah, Bootsy wouldn't have the expansion uptick, but it'd be replaced by a mountain that is the Guild Wars 3 uptick whenever that landed. Whatever. Here's the question I want to go back to: can Living Worlds? Maybe Deroir's got some opinions on this too. Can Living World do it all? Right. Here's the question. I had somebody propose this to me, and I think they had a really good point. Yeah, of course they can do it all. Living World added a roller beetle mounts, but they didn't create the infrastructure for mounts. They're only adding. So can it do it all? Can you get, through Living World, a whole new ballpark to play with?
Like a new type of master, like a new
whatever that feature may be.
Technically, yes. I guess that's the easy answer, right? I think though there should be a few limitations to it. There's I don't believe that Living World should have, at least especially I say, I don't think that would be wise in that sense. I think that's more of that is smarter to drop it all in at the same time instead of doing it slowly and whatnot. I don't know. The infrastructure it's a good question. Do you have an example of what do you mean when you say infrastructure for
Well, that goes back to the checklist idea. What more does Guild Wars 2 need, kind of thing, right? Like ship combat, I don't know.
I've been struggling with this. Yeah, I've been struggling with this idea for the longest time. Like, what more selling points do we actually What big selling points do we actually have for a potential expansion? Like, a lot of people will say,
I got a great one.
Personal store, or personal housing and fishing and whatnot. But are they really
I'll tell you a big one. A box seller guaranteed. New playable race.
True.
That's a huge amount of work. And
as long as it's script,
something like that. Coden. That's it. Can Living World deliver? I'm cynical. Even an expansion can do that, especially depending on how deep they go. That's a whole other discussion. But can Living World give you a new playable race? Can Living World do everything?
How could Living World give you a new playable race? I don't think it could.
Well, you don't think it could? What would the limitations be? Would it be just the inherent perception of what we need for a playable race? Say new starter maps and yeah, I mean
would it need that? I mean that's kind of another thing, but it's a lot of workload. Even if you cull a lot of stuff away, even if they give you Tengu and you spawn at AE and it's one map and it's the same map as the Living World thing, and they don't voice act any of the old stuff. It
doesn't make sense.
Every corner is cut. You don't get any of the old armor armor stuff, no old animations.
If you want every corner cut, you want to introduce what?
It doesn't make sense to introduce it with the Living World, a new playable race, because you'd have to make a new character to play you're no longer the commander you just were in the Living World.
I think cutting every corner would be dropping in Largos with a water-themed map-ish kind of deal.
You're
getting that overlap.
I thought you were going to say adding the Largos back piece to the gem story.
Oh, no, that's already there. We basically have Largos in the game. All we're missing is pointy ears and blue skin. That's literally
just play blue Sylvari, you're done.
Yeah. But like that's cutting everything. Like you basically create a new character at level 80, and I don't know, you create this. I don't know. Suddenly become the commander. I don't know.
Yeah, I see that possible in an expansion. I just don't see that in the living world. Because your character is playing through the living world as though these are your friends. You're having a good time. You're the commander.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this Tengu is the commander.
But okay, so let's go to a what.
And somehow he was involved in everything in Tyria beforehand. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
if I may backpedal just slightly, not on what I said, but like to a topic way earlier, season 5. What if let's stray away from the idea that season 5 is season 1 for a second and say that it's something more I don't know, lore relevant right now. And
you put that very nicely.
No shots fired there. That's not that wasn't intended in that
way.
It's
a ridiculous idea. No, I know what you mean.
But like, what if we basically say that season 5 has every opportunity? Say we don't actually end season 4 on a cliffhanger with Kralkatorrik actually dying, right? Just for the sake of argument, let's say in 2 episodes Kralkatorrik will be slain, and a Dragon Festival will come around in between the seasons. We will celebrate that shit has gone down, and we're moving on to the in between phase between what is going to be the next expansion and what was. This whole area, or this whole room for season episodes has every opportunity to create the storyline needed for anything to happen. Say you wanted to introduce a new playable race with a living story, that would be how you're doing it. You're basically incorporating this one character through the story arc into the rest of the story, but you couldn't do everything else. You're basically put everything else on standby. So like the main story with like Braum and all the like, they're on holiday until they're summoned for like Cantha, and everyone's like, shit, dudes, we gotta take on these faction wars and defeat the dragon together. I don't know. Until then, they're basically just on standby. That would give you the leeway to actually make that possible. Like,
it's very possible in an expansion. They could do it like they did factions. They could have it so that you, like in Guild Wars 1, you could have it so that you create a new character on this island. That's a Tengu, lives his life, goes through this adventure, finds his way to whatever's happening in current time. And then you also have the ability to go from your current characters to Cantha and experience the same things, just not like the one zone that's him living his life before going on this adventure.
But I think
I don't know.
They don't need to go to the lengths of reinstating campaigns. I think they can just do what you're basically saying. What the end game of what you just said there, Boots, is still the same. You're now juggling 2 different, very distinct characters, really, and the game's already juggling distinct characters and just homogenizing them into this one thing branded as the commander. So they would just hand wave it with a little bit of dialogue in like the original release. You could create a Tengu that's at 80 and doesn't really even have any early story if they wanted to cut that many corners, and you integrate straight into the next Living World update, and then they could literally have like a 30-second conversation where it's established that you're the new commander on the block if you're playing as the Tengu. And then that's it. And then they would just write you as the same entity again, just as they already do, with very slight tweaks sometimes.
They could just retrofit it. They could also because think about it, it's not impossible. They could do it. Could have when they add it, it could be like it had always been that way, right? Almost to a certain extent.
I think
because look at Revenant. Look at Revenant.
It would hurt, right? It would hurt to have a situation, a scenario like this, right? It wouldn't feel right. You want it to be fleshed out, and that's why you're arguing for the expansion.
Yeah,
we're arguing for cutting corners. Yeah. And I agree with you in a sense that yes, definitely an expansion could do it much better. They could do it justice, but I think the real question is that necessary? Do we have to have that?
I think I would love the game to do things justice. That would be great.
I mean, Teapot though, you're the big advocate for the idea of what if it's all living world from now, and what was your opinion on this? Would you trust a new playable race?
A new playable race? It's not something that I think should be even added to the game, in my opinion. So maybe I'm not the best advocate for it. But if the way I would think you'd have to do it is almost like pretend that it always been that way, in a way, right?
No, I mean, like
he was just always a bird.
Can the playable race is kind of relevant. Do you think that Living World can really do big features like on that scale?
Yeah, I think it can. Yeah, I think it can.
I would love that.
You could implement another type of feature. I think. To be completely honest, I was obviously hilariously wrong, but I actually thought Sun's Refuge kind of was this. Actually, it would be like a really like player housing kind of meme, right? Where you have very customizable. Turns out it's not really that at all, but I was expecting it. Yeah, I definitely think it can. But when it comes to the retrofitting, no, I think my point has been missed there. So I'll just go on that quickly. Look at Revenant, okay? There were no Revenants around until HOT, right? When this new magic was around, okay? But you can make a level 2 human and play through the core game story as a Revenant, right?
And they just handwave it.
And because I think the way Heart of Thorns has put in Revenants is that you always had Revenants. Almost.
And it was unideal, but they just did it that way.
So I was saying that they would do that if they added, say, Tengu, it would just be that it would still be the case that the Tengu are very mysterious race. They don't really interact with humans a lot, but they do sometimes, right? And there are some Tengu who and it will be a bit of a contrivance that somehow you manage to become commander of the pact as a Tengu. But I mean, I guess
the other option is to just slap you into the existing. You have a different domestic story, which is the 1 to 30 experience, but then you go to Lion's Arch like normal, and they act like the timeline's different, and that fixes that. But anyway, the question I'm really interested in, Teapot, you had a reasonable confidence level that this release might have actually done a player housing style thing. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not. I wouldn't laugh at that. And now you've been proved wrong, essentially, right?
Deleted.
But so here's my question. This is the really interesting thing. Would you be willing to believe next episode they'll do it again? Has you being burned reduced your belief in the Living World format, or are you still as ready? Let's do it. Play housing finale. Let's do it. Has your mind changed now?
I mean, I am kind of a guy. Maybe I have my expectations are maybe a little bit too high, I suppose. But no, I think. I definitely think they could implement that if they wanted to. Some kind of new systems coming through. I'm trying to think of an example. Did anything like that actually happen? Did they add anything very new in Living Story previously? I kind of want to say no.
If I may jump in just slightly, because I think the limitations are that ArenaNet historically have a hard time working outside of their scope, so to speak. So. And what I mean by that is like we get a Living Story map, and then 99% of whatever is released with that takes place on that map. It's they have a very bad history of moving outside of those new maps that are introduced when we're not talking about season 1, because they want all of the maps to be in a stasis, right? And so we get into this scenario where everyone expects the Sun's Refuge to be integrated left, right, and center, and be have rewards tied to whatnot to become this player housing, and that just never happened because they don't really ever do that. I mean, maybe
that's because of the stasis flavor. Rather, I would have anticipated, if I was on board with those theories, I would have just anticipated that the Sun's Refuge would have existed as slightly different styled instance, in that it's not in stasis essentially. That lore.
I think that's how it's supposed to be. I think that's how it's gonna be going forward.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to interact with like the Marga Coast next release, maybe, or something like that. I can't imagine.
Wait, didn't we hear that it is actually kind of just
a one? There was a demo quite recently.
Yeah, right? Sun's Refuge is a one-off. This is the end. It's done.
Really?
One of the devs said, on day 1, on when it was released, this is it. We have no further plans for development of it.
The reason I was really expecting it to go further and almost be a running feature was because they shilled it in the trailer, right? They were going like, boom, Sun's Refuge feature, easy, right?
Yeah.
But then it's not actually a feature. So okay.
It's more of just an extension to the Jahai map.
That's what like a big Living World release, really, with an epilogue to the story on this release.
Precisely.
That's what it is. An epilogue.
So strange. It just makes so much sense for it to be. Oh, go ahead.
maybe I don't know if everyone in chat kind of knows the intricacies of the Sun's Refuge. I'm sorry if I spoil it, but like the way that because it is a reward system in the end inside the actual Sun's Refuge. You can unlock daily chests here and there by doing different events all over Jahai Bluffs. That's it. That's the only like persistent use of it, like consistent use of it.
I suppose it won't seem such a weird aberration if future Living World releases have their own versions of Sun Refuges, and not every single release, but maybe 3 releases down the line, we'll get a Sun's Refuge style thing.
I'd rather see a Guildhall.
I thought it would be something
released with a living story. Because I think that there's more precedence for that to happen.
Because it's a great feature. None of us deny that, right? Like, you get a lot of playtime out of it. It was really fun.
I was thinking it was going to be something more along the lines of a hub for your character and its story for each expansion. So this one would be for POF. You get one for the next expansion when it comes. And it would change depending on where you are in the story.
This is pretty late for POF, really.
Because they just thought of it, I guess. But,
yeah. No, I like that idea too.
But it's like testing out for future implementation as well.
Yeah, which would be a shame if they don't end up doing that.
But because I'm seeing it as a testing ground as well, or at least that was how I perceived it at first. But the way that they're phrasing it in the original like statements, when everything came out and whatnot, is that this like Sun's Refuge was something that they've been wanting to do for a long time, and this was their opportunity to do so. They didn't ever phrase this as actually testing. This is us putting words in their mouth. And myself, like I was expecting that to be just like a precursor to whatever was to come, but this seems to be what they wanted to do.
It could be a lot more shallow than that, really. Guys, it could just be, look, you got a cell of devs that are working on that Living World release. They realize that the subject material covers the old command post, and they're like, hey, that had a kind of a sense of building up. Why don't we sort of do an homage to that in the sequel? That sounds fun. Yeah, all right, let's do it. And, it was kind of a more insular decision amongst those team members to handle that Living World release like that. And it's not some broad strokes thing beyond, it's just because, hey, they were inspired by the fact it was the similar area of the world, and that's what it was in Guild Wars 1 too.
Yeah.
You were building it up with secondary quests. It was the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's very, very likely, in fact.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just don't know whether that's the big... Because, I mean, what I'm really skirting around right now, and I don't know whether everyone... There is this idea, is Living World good enough to be really exciting and do the big ticket items? And what does that mean for the future of Guild Wars 2? I love this idea, this discussion point of, is there only Living World coming up? And I just can't find an answer to that as to what will really thrill me on a pure Living World basis going forwards.
I guess we could consider the past, actually. Okay, so imagine, suppose that there was no Path of Fire, and they dropped... There was a bit of a gap, right? A bit of an extra gap between the end of the Living Story and then moving on to Path of Fire. But instead of Path of Fire, there was like a big episode, a bumper episode, and... it introduced the raptor mount, okay? And then the next episode introduced the bunny mount. And then the next episode introduced the skimmer, and then the jackal, and then the griffin after that, right? That will be crazy hype, right? Do you think people will be excited to get the new mount? That you'd waiting your 3 months, and you can get a new mount, right? Because you can kind of consider it as like the Beetle, right? Beetle was big content, right? Big hype, right? People were really excited for the Beetle. The Beetle is excellent content, right? Okay, adding a new mount. But imagine if the entire system was added in a Living Story patch. Obviously, it would have been a very tricky endeavor. They'd have to time that weirdly because they'd have to be working on it while working on the previous Living Story as well. But in a way, they were doing that with the expansion, right?
To a certain degree, I have a point of contention here because I think one of the reasons why the mount system and the whole like getting all of the different mounts progressively through Path of Fire worked so well for me, for example, was that all of the maps considered all the different mounts from launch. So, say the Crystal Oasis, there were areas that you basically couldn't get to if you didn't have the skimmer. There were areas that you couldn't get to without the Springer and whatnot, and they all kind of tied in together so that like you had a reason to come back to that. You cannot make a map like the Crystal Oasis if you don't have access to, like, you can't make it successful at least to the player, to the consumers, if you're basically locking off areas for something that might or might not come 3 to 6 months down the line.
We don't
right?
have we don't have breakable beetle walls in Istak.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think my answer to your question is it's possible to put a lot of what is in expansions through the living world. I think you could put elite specs. It would be weird to do it monetarily wise. It would be weird to do it balance wise, but you could do it. You could do new maps, you could do mounts, you could do a lot of aspects of an expansion in the living world. I don't think you could do a new race because you would need to introduce them somehow properly.
It's a tricky.
I don't think you could do it in the living world, but you can do a lot of things from expansions in the living world. Just you won't be able to do it in a cohesive way that you could do with a bundle that's an expansion.
I think what bumps me about the idea of having like player housing, for example, what kind of sours me to the idea of only having living stories, that feeling of very static progression. We only have this one map all the time. We're not really moving back and forth between the different areas. I think there's a huge level of quality that just comes with that, like content overflow. That is an expansion. There's just so much at the same time. You can integrate all the different levels of reward into the different maps, like across. Say, for example, one of the best examples, I guess, is the best, or the first map. No, that's the second map. The Highlands, Desert Highlands. You can get all of the same rewards from the dude in the tomb with all of the funerary incense for legendary weapons. Those are tied directly back to the very last map that you go to as well. And I think there's a huge quality to like just integrating the different rewards across different maps and having that feeling of progression all throughout. You cannot get that through Living Story.
So here, I got a great question for you then, Deroir. You just said you cannot get that through Living World. Is that true? That's their current philosophy and perspective. But what do we have? Lindsay Murdoch, like 2 years ago now, during season 3, expressly saying she wanted overarching rewards that would tie all the different episodes together. We got Aurora as a sort of a precursor to that. And when Aurora came in, that was a bomb for all those maps. I really, really liked that, right? Why can't... So I agree with everything you said. So how do you feel about Living Worlds going forwards, going for that backwards interactivity in some of those systems?
I very greatly appreciate the way that they did Aurora, and I'm very, very hopeful that they're going to do it again and again and again, because it's a great thing for every season to basically incentivize everyone to go back and do every single map. It's a great system. But the issue is that, or the issue will always exist in that sense that you're not really tailoring events or maps, or like how stuff actually looks like visually or interacts with. You can't really change that retroactively. You can't. They're not going back and changing an event or an area to include this, say for this season, right? To integrate this fully, you have to use the beetle whatnot for one of the steps for Aurora 2.0. But there is no beetle walls in Istan, like you said. And there's no beetle walls in the Sandswept Isles. You basically have zero interaction with that step in anything beyond or before episode 3 and forward. And so you suddenly have to either go back and put beetle walls or not at all. And so you get into this scenario where it's just the same shit, different story. You don't really spice it up.
What if they already were there? What if they did it? What if they actually did leave some of the maps not fully accessible, right? What if you did have to wait a little bit to actually get full access, right?
But there's a difference. There's a difference though. So with the expansion, you can then progress to the next map and then go backwards immediately. With Living World, it comes every 3 months. You're really gonna make somebody wait 3 months to get something.
Yeah, you're gonna make them wait. Of course you are. That's gonna make them. pee themselves with anticipation.
That's hype, dude.
Dude, if I saw a beetle wall in the Sandswept Isles and I was looking at that, you'd have Reddit threads of people going, "Oh, what is this?" You'd have people chatting about it in their guild Discords. It would be amazing.
Yeah, but like,
what is this going to be? But I mean,
6
they
months
would
down the line. I can't help but think that like then 6 months down the line, you break through that beetle wall and all you see on the other side is a corn and chest.
No.
It's like the biggest letdown ever.
Yeah, but it's
that's what we have. Right?
Yeah, but you'd just be looking at that one wall. You'd be like, oh, I now know the solution to the puzzle was that these walls we can break, and there's going to be other walls in the other maps and stuff. I reckon it would work. I really do, and I'll advocate the elite specs per release as well. I actually think, from a balanced perspective, in the competitive modes, Wild vs Wild PvP, it would be so much better to have just one come in at a time.
Completely correct. Absolutely right.
Addressed just a second ago.
Yeah, that's probably.
I think there's an issue just in general with anticipation. Like we as a community have an issue with anticipation, and if you make people wait like that for something that's already technically in the game, just the legendary ring right now is a perfect example of that, right?
I'm hyped about that ring, man.
I'm hyped as well. I'm super hyped, and I'm probably gonna get super disappointed because it's gonna come out after a year.
That is on another level, though, man.
And it's like, but like, imagine that in with actual game content, on unlocking an area of an environment that's already, or of a map that's already unlocked that you've been to, and then you get in and you're finally like, this hype has built for 6 months. Oof, let's hit that wall, and it's just whatever is on it.
I'm still waiting for the wizard tower.
Expectation management. That's not a dev problem, is it?
No. It's not a dev problem, but I think it's a community issue that has to be considered, because that's just as cool as that of an idea. That's just going to be kind of bad press, I guess.
Besides all that point, I feel like there's a difference between designing 4 maps together to interact with each other, gameplay-wise, where you have to go to one map to get something to go back to the other map to do it. There's a difference between that and locking something away for 3 months before somebody could actually get to it.
Okay.
There's a difference between locking away, though, and telegraphing upcoming stuff, too.
Telegraphing upcoming stuff? I
don't think that it's fair to say it's already in the game if there was the beetle wall symbol somewhere, and realistically speaking,
it's literally just locking it off, though. It's not.
It's the same as like Brisbane Wildlands with that broken bridge hinting at a portal up there. Everyone's hyped about the portal and wants to go through the portal. It's not locked content that's in the game right now.
Is it not locked?
Content to come.
I'm with WP, man. I think that's correct. I think it's not the same. It's not quite the same as locking it off. It is. It's
very different from.
What if they just didn't add it? Fine. What if they just developed it with? What if they were even if you hack through the wall, there's nothing there, but they only add it when the next episode comes, right?
That's literally locking it off.
No, it's not. What if they develop it in post? What if they didn't know at the time what was going to be behind that door? Okay, so
happens all the time. Straits of Devastation. There's the Bloodstone caves. It's behind there. There's nothing.
And there's a giant Hydra in the caves, guys. Okay, chat will.
You're literally saying that you're not putting anything in there until 3 months later. That's locking it off for 3 months. That's exactly what it is.
What if they develop it later?
Let's take it from another perspective. Let's try to take it from another perspective. Let's not telegraph. Or let's try to imagine a scenario where we're not just telegraphing future stuff, but when that new thing comes into the game, they go back to other maps, previous maps, and add a beetle wall for something that was intended without telegraphing it and overhyping it. Basically, just going back, like having the plan all along or whatnot, I don't know, ahead of time, and then going back to the Sandswept Isles, and there's like this wall that you can now break through. They just add those little tweaks because now you have the beetle mount. I would much rather prefer that, I guess, because then
You've just made me realize. I think that's right. This is all very reasonable to say that would be cool, but I think the reason that it doesn't happen, and it's the same reason that the timeline stasis thing happens with the maps now and the relentless progress forwards. I think it's kind of a workflow thing for them. I think it's a real pain in the backside for them to go back and update prior releases and tweak things. And I think that it becomes exponentially more difficult for them to do. Obviously, the longer the season goes along and they got more masteries to juggle. I literally just think it's a workflow logistics is why they don't do that, because it would be nice. But I think they like to put their Living World release in a can, and then they put it out there, and it will have little updates. But look at how infrequently they ever update any old Living World stuff, even with pretty major bugs and issues in prior releases. they'll do a couple of patches, but like, what's the odds of us seeing another substantial Lake Doric release? Patch that does anything to Lake Doric. Well, they just don't do it because they like to move on logistically. I don't think we'll see it.
Don't you think that's kind of an error though? Wouldn't you say that's almost?
I can speculate that. That's to the game's detriment, definitely. Yeah. But I don't know. They've obviously done the risk assessment as to whether it's worth it, and I guess it's such a pain that even to this detriment.
Didn't they do that assessment with Living World Season 1? Isn't that what Living World Season 1 was all about?
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a beautiful quote on the most recent developer AMA, wasn't there, where someone said, it was a crazy question. Did you guys see this? The community. Someone said, why not, literally this topic actually, he said, why not lock off the rewards and slowly trickle them out over the next few weeks, because otherwise we'll get it all on day one. That was a question, which is like an absurd thing to ask. But the dev responded and said, no, that puts us into a perpetual state of shipping, and we don't get a moment where we get to.
I saw that, yeah.
And that's basically what they were saying, right? And I think that's why you see they don't update the old stuff as well. Once it's out, it's out, and it is a shame because I wish, the corner. Who here doesn't want Gandara to be updated? Let's be real. We want a better Gandara map, don't we?
Corner and I think the other one is almost Bitterfrost actually are just not finished, right? They're not. And they
why do you say that? Because of the icy area, you would have liked to see it.
Well, I mean, if they hadn't put the, they slightly put their foot in their mouth in the AMA, right? There was like a pre-AMA or something, and they said, yes, or was it on the forum post and stuff and blog post? Yes, the bitter cold is going to be this elite area with high rewards, right? And there's literally nothing there, right? I wouldn't have questioned it otherwise, because you could say, it's just a story meme, right? It's some RP stuff, right? But it turns out it was supposed to be this highly rewarding area, and the map was like unironically unfinished.
Yeah, I really messed up with that, because that was in what they did. That was in their press information about it before it came out, and so I talked about it on a video, and then it wasn't true at all in the end, and I was like, oh dear, well that sucks. I really put my foot in. But yeah, that was obviously some early design that they never ended up throwing out.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it. Well, I mean, I suppose it's sad if it's not viable or not worth it for them to do that, because I think the living world would feel a bit more living if the maps were actually a bit more connected than they currently are, really, or and a bit more less in stasis, right? I think the static nature of it is a little bit contradictory almost to what they're aiming for with the nature of the living story, right?
I don't know whether they are aiming.
Is that what you're saying?
Season 1 is what what you want is what Season 1 was.
Yeah, Living World is hilarious, really. Guild Wars isn't really about Guild Wars. Living World
isn't really living
about world and what they're going for. I don't think they're just trying to find any way that they like to develop actively in MMO. It's really ironic we talk about this, by the way, at this release, which I actually think has done reasonably well at integrating with some of the collections are asking you to return to core POF map, not other Living World stuff. But core POF maps, core Tyria stuff, there is actually a portal entrance between two Living World releases. That's the first time they've ever done that before. Yeah. I think the actual reason why we don't see another reason, I should say, why we don't see it is the pricing structure, because they can't guarantee you have corner. They don't push you back to corner.
Precisely.
They don't want to lock anyone off in any way when they release something new.
Though I heard a rumor, I haven't played it yet. Isn't it true that they send you to Istan this release? One of the collections, one of the achievements or something. Doesn't it actually do that? I swear, because someone in chat might be able to confirm this.
Is it for a certain... Is it for the weapons?
I don't know, but apparently one of the collections are achievements, as far as I remember.
I don't remember going.
Well
maybe...
But that's what, if that had happened, that would have been groundbreaking as well, actually, for Living World, and in line with what we're requesting here.
Oh, of course, it's not required to finish the achievement. Oh, right, I remember now. Actually, yeah, it's the Aurene thing. It's the Aurene bed.
So what's the story?
Or whatever. So the story is the achievement is structured in such a way that you have six steps that you can unlock basically, but you only require 4. So if you don't have access to either of those, the 2 maps that might be locked off in some way, you have other options to still complete the achievement. But if you can still go back, like if you pull up the achievement, you can still go back and go to those maps and finish all 6 of them, and add all of that to your Sun's Refuge.
So was that? Sorry, you forgot about it, but was that satisfying? Is that?
I actually went back and it's kind of satisfying because it adds a little object in Aurene's little bed or whatever nest. One of them being like a little music box. I actually went back and did the other two, because there's 4 that are piss easy, and then 2 of them that requires like a lot of hearts or whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely satisfying, I'd say.
So more of that for season 5.
Just a mini little thing. I don't remember the maps exactly though.
I don't mind backtracking. I think some people really dislike backtracking. I think I think backtracking is really underappreciated actually in video games, like seeing what has come before you, you know, and
it's really important in an RPG, right?
Yeah, especially with the role play elements, and well, to kind of speak in general to like the way a lot of things are, it kind of feels like a lot of the RP elements. I mean, I'm a massive role player, as you know, but a lot of the RP elements in RPGs tend to get swept under the carpet almost, right? In just to kind of streamline it. It feels like everything is super streamlined down, right? And that's kind of a bit of it's a shame, in my opinion, right? And
I think, I mean, it's a bit scathing to be honest, but I actually don't think ArenaNet are good at making RPGs. Like the actual idea of having a good progression phase and feeling of leveling and getting stronger and all that kind of stuff. I don't really see much of it because a lot of it has been streamlined. And Guild Wars is more occupied with respecting your time than making a good RPG.
Yeah,
but I appreciate that.
Yeah, and a lot of people will, but you know, I think it is.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and also, you know, it's like also part of the reason that is because you could go back to old maps and you get scaled down, and your friends could play with you. It's all designed so that you can play with your friends without any barriers, and I think that's nice.
So I got a question for like season 5. To me, when it was announced that there wasn't going to be an expansion, but we're going season 4 directly into season 5, I remember the Mike Z's expression very, very clearly in the video. It was a bit of a hollow announcement to me. I didn't really feel like any excitement. So I'm wondering, what was all of your takeaways from that? I feel like I need a shake up in season 5 to be really excited and to get people excited about it. Are you guys happy, lukewarm? I mean, I
think it's a little hard or harsh to judge the announcement video, because I think that was scripted and I don't think that really all that great actors in that sense. Like no offense meant, but like I just don't. I think he was just reading off a script, and that's why we don't really get that super. Because maybe they just didn't know what they were actually gonna do. Maybe it's just even in just like early development phase, and all they know is like, oh, we're doing season 5 kind of deal. I'm over exaggerating this, but still, I think I want a shake up. I think that's the most important thing that I want to see from this. I want them to work on what they said in the video as well. They wanna refine this whole living story experience with all the knowledge that they now have. I want them to shake it up in the sense that we just feel like it's something different.
Well, here ArenaNet has a great idea. Kill the player character and then replace it with a Tengu.
Nice.
Well, alternate universe.
Everyone's forced to play Tengu. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. I think personally, I think season 5 is going to be all over the place. I think season 5, like I have this personal theory that is that we actually just killed Kralkatorg and we ended off. We end off the season and we kind of go into like, and we can go anywhere in the world kind of mode, and we kind of fill out some of the blanks on the world map. That's what I want to see, because that opens up the potential for a lot of varied storytelling all over the place, instead of having this like super stringent story arc of like, we have to go in this direction. We can actually go off and have the same experience as you do with like many raids, where it's like a one-off story that just kind of is super amazing and good fun.
Are you basically advocating to go a lot more like season 3 was? Season 3 was a world tour. It was all like Fire Island Chain 1 release, Far Shiver Peaks. So basically, season 4 would be season 5 would be taking us around the world like that again, right?
I would love to see that, but where season 3 had that stringent arc of like, there's a reason why we're going up here. There's a reason why we're crisscrossing all over the map.
Oh, you want pure standalone?
Yeah, I'd rather have like just like the story freed up in a sense. Have that free
wow,
like feeling of freeness, I guess. We are free of the. We're free of the dragons. Kralkatorrik is dead. Primordus is sleeping. Jormak, he's sleeping. What are we gonna do? We don't actually have an issue unless we create. And like, we're not doing the expansions, or we're not moving to Cantha necessarily.
It would be like real episodes of a TV series. It's like this episode, the Blood Legion Imperator has appeared. We are off the, and this episode, I don't know.
Because the alternative that I see, if Kralkatorrik actually goes and dies, the alternative that I see is that we just go north, we go up to Jormak, and he's not actually sleeping. And I feel like that would just be, I don't know. That's another way.
Yeah, they could definitely do that, and it would keep it very much fresh, and you could get a wide variety of environments in there, and you could almost be like the cleanup crew in preparation for the next expansion, right? And you could slowly be uncovering what's going to happen in the next expansion as well. You could be just dealing with like the almost like an epilogue to it in a way, and that means you could have a lot of freedom because obviously a lot of the world has been affected, right? The dragons have done some serious shit, guys. It's a bit of a situation.
But if they're going to pull out another one of those, because I actually, unless we get this whole arc now up to wherever we're going, like let's assume just for a second that it can't, just for the argument. Either we have this whole wind up to what's going to happen, or they just kind of pull it out of their ass. And I think if any expansion or any area of the game could have that scenario happen realistically, like not feel like it's just Deus Ex Machina pulled out of nowhere with the desert. It's Cantha. Like at the end of the season, we kind of get this letter or whatnot that the Emperor is doing shit across the pond, and we should maybe take a sail across the unending ocean. Or I don't know. I mean, there's much more precedence for that to just be pulled out of nowhere than any other area of the game.
The one thing I would say, just to sort of kick back a little bit on the discussion point, not because I think it's a terrible idea or anything, but what do you guys think about if the season 5 thing is lots of standalones where we essentially meander? Is that not a serious loss of focus? To the one of the main arguments against the season 1 thing is like, oh, we're just milling about, we don't know, we're going back, we're not progressing the story any further. If people have nothing to look forward to, no impetus, no through line, I would add 2 seasons back to back as well. I would be quite concerned of a drop off there, right?
I see there being a through line.
I guess it's a question of whether or not, or how big the investment actually is in the story from the community. And I know it's obviously big, but is that the main pull for the vast majority of the player population? Is it just the story?
I think there's also something to be said for kind of going on a few flights of fancy as well, right? And it's like going on to some brand new adventures, brand new enemies to fight, right?
Do we not get that from raids and fractals?
You do, but we could do that even more.
Imagine if the Wizard's Tower just becomes an open world map.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Wizard's Tower.
Because you can tell these one-off.
What would you want to see Wizard's Tower as most? Raid, fractal, open world map.
Now you're a man, who analyzes things. Okay, so you almost certainly know about this, but of course the actual location on the map where you kill Kadim is very close to the Wizard's Tower.
Yeah,
and
but I don't.
Kadim is not dead.
And Garenhoff is mentioned in the raid as well. But
Yes.
You also have the fractal lobby, the gem store lobby. I can't remember what it's called right now. Underneath, like the in the Sea of Sorrows, right next to it as well. It's just a mechanical thing.
Kadim is in the mix. He's gone in the tower.
He's an elemental, and the Wizard Tower is all about elementals.
So are you saying a raid? Are you sorry? Is that what I just said?
Yeah.
I think. Okay, wait. No, hold up. I think actually more than anything, I think the fact that it's on the map in that sense points more to there never being anything on top of it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because I think they've basically just selected areas of the map that will never be touched. They've agreed on that a long time ago. This is never going to get touched.
You know what's really sad about that? That was data mined as well. That was one of the pre-release maps that they were gonna put in, but they didn't. It got cut just like the original Lake Doric did. But this was to the south, and so if they've decided to say no to that forever, then that's a shame.
So this is just filler, putting it in empty space.
Oh, All right, okay.
But Wizard's Tower Raid is hype as hell, man. The final boss.
Yeah,
it is 100%
happening.
hype. It's big hype, actually. It's big hype. And you know what? This is something that once again the developers did actually talk with regards to raids. It could just be a single boss encounter. It could be you fight the wizard, right? Because
how do you feel about that?
A single boss raid? I think I would love it actually, because presumably they could do it quicker. If you have to wait 3 months for it, and you have to wait 6 months rather, and you have to wait 6 months for one boss. Bad.
And then
bad. But
when you beat the raid, that's your player housing.
Sorry, I gotta get your perspectives on something here. I've got to, because we can all sit here and say, yeah, Wizard's Tower raid, but there's a backlash that would come from that. Do you guys care about that backlash?
When it comes to
the devs cannot do anything with raids without people whining that exciting story is being in the raids. Wizard's Tower is the ultimate. This is
do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
That's why you also have to lock away. That's why you also have to lock away player housing of the Wizard Tower behind the raid.
Oh, God, can you imagine that?
I'm genuinely of the opinion.
I'll tell you what.
I'm genuinely of the opinion that should happen. Like, ArenaNet should do more things that would be like great for the game. Like, do something like that. Just outrageous stuff for the vast majority of the community. Like, pull the Wizard Tower into a raid. Just do it. Because like they're gonna get shit on it regardless. Just make it great fucking content, and the content will speak for itself.
The Mystic Forge is a pretty lore-heavy thing, and it wasn't actually that harsh, right? It wasn't the backlash wasn't that brutal with regards to
no, because
we're getting accustomed to it.
But prior to the Mystic Forge raid being a raid, there wasn't really much interest in visiting the inside of the Mystic Forge. There were a few jokes, voice acting, and there was a little bit in POF, his original lair and stuff. But it wasn't really a thing that most players have looked at and said, "I want to go there." You know, I don't think it was telegraphed in quite the same way. So no, there was definitely not back. But the Underworld, the Underworld is a fascinating one because the Underworld was end game content. It was hardcore content in Guild Wars 1. I mean, in the later years, it got power crept and easy to do. But it was for that part of the community, and people still, really got upset.
I just want the crybabies to kind of burn out on crying. No joke. I want ArenaNet to keep on doing, because I think that's what's happening actually with raids and whatnot. All the hard end game stuff that's being added now is that a lot of people have complained so much already that they've kind of they stop.
It's time for easy mode.
With
the Wizard's Tower. With the tower. Okay, we bring in difficulty scaling, 3-win easy mode. Okay, let's go.
No.
Okay, what? And then you wait another 9 months for the release?
Oh, sorry, second.
I say, and then you have to wait another 9 months for the release, even longer, because they have that. Deal with on top.
I'll tell you what.
Do you not like the easy mode idea? Because if so, I'm on your side. I really think
it would be a really interesting decision to make if easy mode would actually get a huge player engagement. Then yeah, I think it would be 100% worth it, because then they'd probably develop it more.
You know, Wizard's Tower's in the sky. You know what else is in the sky?
Oh my God.
Space.
Tengu, wait, no.
Easy mode clouds.
Can't fly.
Easy mode clouds.
Tribulation, like the
clouds are in the sky. The Wizard's Tower is in the sky. It only makes sense that they're
travel around via rainbow.
Yeah,
rainbow clouds. Yeah, just fly over everything. Pretty much. It's what needs to be done, guys. Okay. You know, I think when it comes to raids and easy mode, I mean, so WP, you're not on the side of the easy mode. Okay?
Hell no, I'm not. In fact, I gotta say one of the biggest backlashes I've ever had in terms of people like proper getting angry at me and really being like, I hate you now kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is my very, very staunch defense of not having easy modes.
Okay.
I think I mean I've done hours of stuff on it before, but I really, really, really just think if it was a plausible thing for them to have done, they would have already done it. I think we are close enough with the tours that people can do of cleared wings as it is. You have your easy mode there. The accessibility of it is a little bit off. Maybe you can add some kind of toggle for that, but I really think it's just going to be way too unwieldy for them. And I think it betrays heart. I think it betrays the heart of raids to do an easy mode. I think that's okay. That's a different argument. But like your original argument,
If your original argument of if it was able to be done, they would have done it already is not a very good argument because there's a lot of things.
No. It is a good argument. What I'm saying is people who want the easy mode thing basically just want. They don't really want content to play. They just want to see and experience killing the bosses and see the areas and listen to the voice act and the dialogue. And you can approximate that already to a very significant degree by taking the post-clear tours. I'm not a particular advocate for that. Oh, just watch it on YouTube. I'm really not an advocate for that, and I don't care for that. But I do think that it's too unwieldy for them to continue to host all the various difficulty modes that people would be asking for. And the main through line that the main argument that people make, which is, if I beat it on easy mode, I'll still come back and do hard mode later, right? Like, I don't believe in. I think that if they add easy mode, you will destroy the population of.
We agree.
Really?
I talked about this as well.
I feel like the people who do
raid,
easy
I don't
mode...
believe is sustainable.
What? Okay, hold on a second though. You're saying if you do easy mode, you're going to destroy the population of raiding?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are a lot of people who raid today, and the raiding scene as the size as it currently is today is only this size because people have had no choice but to interact with what is so effing amazing about Guild Wars 2. The raids are really fun. There's lots of mechanics. There's lots to learn. The investment of time and that acceleration for players being super casual, sort of really middle of the road characters, to being invested, awesome, intelligent people that are excited about new wings. The vast majority of people who are in that situation right now, who may be listening to our voices right now and watching this right now and care about raids, would not be sitting here right now caring about raids if easy modes had always been there.
So you think that all the people who don't interact with raids because they are intimidated by it and feel like there's a barrier to entry wouldn't be...
My door just went, Boots. I can't answer. Somebody else chime in. My door just went. Be right back.
Okay, Deroir, you're the other one who says that we shouldn't have it easy mode. So I don't know if you believe this though, but like, do you think that all the people who don't interact with raids because they think it's too difficult or that it's a barrier to entry, it's hard to get 10 people, etc., they don't want to do it, that they would not be like swayed by trying it out, giving a little taste of it in easy mode and being like, oh, this isn't so bad, maybe I'll try the real thing?
No, because the same barriers to entry, I mean, they would still exist for easy mode, I guess, finding 10 friends, unless you make it solo mode, and then, I mean, what's the point? My argument earlier has been that I just don't, I just don't really believe that the turnover rate from like people trying out easy mode to actually going into to the harder version, if that would actually be sustainable. I don't think that there is going to be an increase of raiders in the scene if you add easy mode. Quite the contrary. I think people will just, especially if you add rewards. Like,
are you saying that the people who currently raid are then only going to do easy mode?
A proportion will. A proportion will. A proportion will stop playing the raids properly. They will. Okay. They will do the easy mode.
Even if the rewards are completely different.
Listen, the biggest boundaries to raids largely are social barriers and getting the group of 10. And when a couple of people quit and drop out, maybe not the next wing, the wing after that, when the easy mode is available, people will not put in the effort to form communities, to meet people, to keep on top of the meta and whatnot. They will devolve into being easy mode only people.
I don't know.
They basically have a glorified, little value, living world tack on to every other living world release. They would lose their value.
What if I told you? It would really
depend on the rewards, and I think that the current raiders aren't looking for an excuse not to raid anymore. If they didn't want to raid anymore, then they would just not raid anymore.
Listen, the real I'm scared of this right now because there's a lot of really, really complicated arguments to weave through, and it could take a long time. But I think the real discussion to have is 5-man. If you're going to do different versions, I think the 5-man opportunity that's still difficult and still encourages people to learn about gear and to invest time in the game and become enthusiastic about the game and get a new experience that divergent to living world, a difficult experience, I think, but 5-man that's more accessible would do a lot more than the prospect of an easy
like dungeons.
The revival of dungeons, not the old ones, but new ones.
Fractals is the more comparable thing, but I mean the whole 10-man 5-man thing's kind of a thing.
Siggy wants me to shut up, so I'll stop.
You can't wait. What?
It's certainly true. It's certainly true when it comes to the actual getting 10 people. It's a big problem. But I think I want to live in that world where you can kind of bait people into tryharding a bit. But like, just look with the way the Guild Wars
They do that though, Teapot. They do that. You have the best bait right now. You have the best tryhard bait. Listen, all right, look at dungeons. How many people became hardcore interested, decent players? How many people got siphoned out with dungeons? Dungeons are at launch, the 2012 State of Dungeons, and a couple of months after. That's easy mode raids. And what compelling content came out of that? What enthusiasm came from the community? What aspects were there? There weren't any because people were like, oh, I've done it and it's boring, it's over. There is nothing to raids if you make it easy. There's nothing. It offers anything that's any divergent to the rest.
It's kind of this. I just want to see the uptake of someone even doing the content even once.
But I think that's that's just a measure of time, or a question of time, I believe. I think it's just because we've had raids out for X amount of time, and the longer people stay around, the more likely they are to try out this content, go back and actually, oh right, 2 years later, I've actually really worked on my Guardian play, and now Guardian is in the meta. Maybe I should try out some raiding here. I think it's just a matter of time and opportunity, getting people in slowly. They don't need to complete it immediately.
I've been asking a lot of leading questions to you guys to try to get your viewpoints on it, but I just want to say what I think. I could be very, very wrong, and I probably am. But and maybe what Teapot also thinks is that the population that raids currently is not that high, and raiding would probably be supported more if a larger population was doing it.
Yeah, I like that backdoor theory. That's a cool idea.
And a larger population might do it if some part of it, the storyline, was more accessible. Obviously, you would have to not have the same rewards because it would make the harder raids not worth it for people. But you'll still have the people who like the challenge and do it that way. But yes, you'll have to have different rewards for an easy mode versus normal raiding. And I think that having people experience these storylines, instead of maybe 10% of the population of Guild Wars 2 playing raids, then maybe 50 to 60 to 70% of the population playing raids, even if it's just the easy mode, might encourage the developers to release more standalone adventures that are raids.
But on that note, I have to jump in here because, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself here from a previous TeaTime, but I've made this argument before that I don't believe that if you actually get a higher player turnout for a specific type of content just because it's easy, you are effectively incentivizing more playtime of that easy mode, and you're only getting a boost on the easy mode. You're not incentivizing the overflow between easy to hard. And so the actual like rates as we have them right now would not necessarily be have more support from the devs, because the metrics show that more players are playing the easy mode. And so there would be a tendency for them to just develop the easy mode, because people aren't there. And this is just a hypothetical, but if the turnover rate from easy to hard is basically non-existent, and the vast majority of players, say 10% of players are engaging with the hard mode and 90% of the players are engaging with easy mode, why should you then continue making the hard mode and not just like slack on this and then all of a sudden just make it be like challenge modes are? Hard mode, like normal mode right now, is just challenge modes. They're one time, non-repeatable really, and the main bulk of the content is actually just the easy mode. It's a slippery slope to go down, like when we're talking about just player interactivity with the retention time of the content.
It's for the same reason that raids even exist now. Guild Wars 2 wants to be all things to all people, and I'm just going to whack you with some cold hard pragmatism here, Deroir. I actually don't care about overflow at all. All I care about is actual participation and uptake, because that's all ArenaNet care about at the end of the day.
But that's exactly it though. You might kill the game mode that you most like. In its sense that it is now, right? Or in the form that it is right now.
I'll flip the coin. If
that is a flip of the coin. It really is. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I'll flip the coin. In that case, if it has any chance of more resources being allocated to raids, to the point where we could get 4 or 5 bosses per raid wing, if it was worth investing in that, and it was worth creating more rewards, dealing with the game mode, like making the game mode
but 5
bigger and
bosses,
stronger, I think it'll be good.
5 bosses being 1/3 of the challenge.
But
the easiest raid
I don't think
we have right now.
I do not think they would
Or
remove. I don't think they would remove. I think they wouldn't remove normal mode. I don't think they would remove the challenge.
Well,
from the
listen,
game.
if you want to talk in terms of pragmatism, then you should accept that adding the various modes comes at resource cost already. So if you want additional support on raids, that comes on top after the additional resources that need to be allocated in order to develop for the various modes as well. So you're asking for a tall order from the devs to go back up to their original bar in the first place, except with difficulty modes, and now exceed it as well at the same time, right? So it's not
You're likely to get fewer bosses. Yeah.
I don't even think it's a flip of the coin. I think you would diminish the rate at which you get stuff without an enormous capital and developer time.
Only once, I think. I think after the first time, you wouldn't see much of a delay. For example, I think Doom CM is a great example of this. I don't think it was very difficult to implement that. I obviously can't say precisely, but I certainly don't think it was probably that hard. Because like most of the mechanics are there. Like it's not a new animation. It's the same model as Doom, in fact, like with the troll animation. So it's the same animation, it's the same model. They just put some shadow effects on it, and he just grabs you. I mean, so basically that's basically the opposite of that would be even easier if you think, because you just strip away mechanics and change values. Obviously, like the only thing that would actually take development time would be swapping between these modes. You would have to have a custom instancing system where you would create an easy mode instance as opposed to a normal mode instance, right? That would be where the development time would come in, I would imagine. Obviously, I'm speculating here, of course. So, like, maybe I'm crazy here, but I don't think it would be.
We're speculating just as much, to be fair.
I don't think it will be. It wouldn't be like a mass. It wouldn't be as hard as developing, say, an extra boss, right? And on top of that, if raids became more successful and more appreciated by the community as a whole, right, then suddenly, I think they would be able to assign more developers to it, right?
This is what my point is. Yeah, like my point is not that I want easy mode. I don't think I'd personally play the easy mode. I just want more, like I want more people to interact with raids so that they get more development time, which means that specifically in my case, I like the apart from living world stories that they bring into the game, the one-off adventures that you get to have.
I think the best way to increase the size of the raid scene is to work on the game in general, to be honest, and have people transition from the core gameplay up through fractals and into raids. You already have my main thing where I guess I'm different to you two is I'm very cynical that adding an easy mode would make more people interact with it. I actually think you would, if anything, lose.
What?
I think you. I know. Here's the thing. I'm a man of compromise, and I completely agree with you. You would have some people drop down. Okay, and
you'd have less people climbing up. That's the big bit.
I think you would have some people climbing up. Because I think some people it's literally a mental barrier to the point where nope, raids are. Raids are toxic. I'm not. Look, it's hard. It's 10 people. Can't do it. Okay, you would have some people climbing up. Maybe not. Maybe you would actually lose people in the normal game mode. But honestly, maybe this is just me being a selfish prick. But honestly, I don't really mind so much about that as long as people actually, as long as we get more content, right? I'll trade like a drop in the normal mode population for ArenaNet not being so worried about integrating raids with the story because of the casual backlash, being able to implement raids at all because of the casual backlash, and just adding hard content to the game because it's not accessible, I can't do it. That's something. Yeah, I'll take it. I think it's a fair deal. Yeah, I mean I think it will be a good bargain to make. It might be a bit of a risk, but I think it's a minimal risk, and the payoff is potentially very, very high.
I think it's quite the opposite. I think that it's quite a high risk.
Mm.
So you're saying that ArenaNet would implement easy mode, and then a year later say, "Hey, people are playing easy mode. Let's get rid of hard mode."
They're not saying it. They'll just do it.
Yeah, and it's not just ArenaNet. That's well, what you got to understand is it's not going to be easy mode. There's a perspective issue here where people will rather it'll be easy mode when it's added, but very quickly after easy will be normal. and it will be, oh, well, I don't want to do the hard mode thing. I've already seen
But not
it
if there's
looks
different,
I've
like,
already seen what the bosses
different
look
rewards.
like.
Are you still considering that you get the same rewards?
The people that you're trying to reach are not aiming. They don't care about the rewards in the first place. That's not the catchment for them. What they feel like they're denied is the experience of fighting the boss and going to this area of the game. Look at that huge, ridiculous rant that came out on Reddit when the Mystic Forge came out, where the guy was like, "This is the most beautiful map that they've ever made. I can't believe that they only put that in raids." He doesn't care about the rewards. It's not about. It's nothing to do with that. It's the experience of going through it.
Okay.
And right now, they have a reason to interact with a lot more systems in the game and learn about the game. And actually, they have to make a commitment to find the 10 people. And when they do, they become vested players. I also think there's a kind of a weird thing that you guys don't seem to appreciate. The proportion of dedicated players in Guild Wars 2 that are raiding right now compared to the rest is actually on the up. That is a bigger and bigger facet of the game. Every wing that they add, intrigue and insight into it is increasing. You're already getting your continued turnover. And as the devs continue adding more wings, that will continue to do so. If you allow people to backdoor and bypass it, they won't do it.
I would have to look at the numbers to see if you're right. Because, if that's the case, if with these new raid wings, we're just getting more and more. Instead of 10% of people playing, it's 20%, now it's 30%, now it's 40% of people playing without there being an easy mode, then sure, there's no need for an easy mode. But if that's not the case...
Well, just look at LFGs. Look how much more active LFGs have been getting over the years since HOT and ratings started coming out. How many more people actually go for it? How much less backlash there even is in the first place from people who don't have that.
There is less backlash. There's a lot less backlash.
Yeah. It's becoming more a part of the identity of the game, and people are more willing to go for it. And it's helped a lot by fractals as well, by the way, which is super easy and slowly transition people up to not just being better at the game, but also having communities and cells of people that they know because they do daily T4s every day. So they build a friends list eventually.
But like looking for raids is that the best way to see whether or not?
Listen, if you've got a lot of LFGs available and an aerodrome in front of you, that's all you need to experience joy in the MMO. So yeah. No, that's it. That's the bar.
That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking, though. I'm asking, is your cursory looking at LFGs and seeing that there's a few more people looking for raids, is that really saying that the population of raids is increasing? I know that Deroir has been looking at the, what's it called?
Metrics?
The efficiency. And the people who complete these raids, you can actually see with the achievements, obviously only people who've registered for Guild Wars 2 efficiency, but the percentage is pretty low, right? Am I?
It is low. Like
lower than it was when they came out.
True.
Well, because eventually people are going to do it.
Yeah.
I think one of I've said this before. I haven't checked it since, and since we last talked about it, there's been another raid. So this may have changed slightly, but in terms of people that have interacted with the Wing 5, that is significantly lower. I think it was like a 5% actually interact. Granted, sure, okay, let's get the bias out of the way here. Obviously, it's a 200,000 different accounts. That is still a good enough sample size for about 10 million.
And that's also biased towards people who are more into Guild Wars 2 than the actual players.
Granted, yes, but let's just, assume there is a bias. Anyways, 5% in interaction with the Wing 5, whereas with the earlier wings, there's upwards of 10 to 12%. They've just been around longer. There's been a bigger pool of guides and
as well.
And
so 30.5%, someone says, have done Veil Guardian. 8.9% have done.
Yeah, okay, but we're talking about a singular completion,
right?
Because repeatability is a very interesting thing to consider when we're talking about raiders, because those 30.5%. That's the sample size of people that have actually completed and tried it out. The people that continue to do it over time and actually get invested into the rating scene, that is at about a 10% part of the community. That's true. But the people that actually interact with it, that is bigger.
Right, but
why does this matter? Why do the numbers matter at all? The point is, we want more. Everyone here can agree. We want more resources, want more wings, and more developer interaction. That's it, right? And so it doesn't matter. Even if it was like 0.5% of the Guild Wars 2 population played raids, and we were still at a place where you could easily get a group to go do any boss, right? It doesn't matter what the proportion is whatsoever. All that matters is that there's raid releases coming at a cadence you'd like. Now, all I'm saying is, to that end, if you want more development time, the way to do that is not to ask them to make the new wings even more complicated and allow the community to backdoor the interesting interactions in the first place. I'm saying
that more interaction with the raids encourages more development for the raids.
But it doesn't.
Why not?
Because, well, no. So you said more interaction with the raids from the community.
Yeah.
Yes, but the point is, it won't be the interaction that you're looking for in the hard stuff.
I think
when we're talking about
not
exactly
content,
looking for it, we need numbers for the perpetual raiders. If you go and play it once, you're not really part of the scene. You're not helping to keep the raid alive, right?
I don't think that's the point, though. I think just overall engagement. I mean, the living story gets played through most players. Well, certainly a good proportion of players will play through it once, right? And then you'll kind of frolic around on the map a little bit. Yeah. I think we're talking. Like Benji's right here. We're talking about slightly different issues here. I just want people to engage with it at all. I would very much like that 8% on Soulless Horror. Right, this is going to be controversial, boys. Okay, I would like that 8% on Soulless Horror to be like 60%, right? At least, right? I want to see most of the player base kill Doom, right? That's what I want to see. Because, for a start, I think it's great content, right? Like, you fight Doom, man? That's sick. I don't see why not. I want everyone to fight Kadim, everyone to beat Veil Guardian. Certainly not Doom CM, right? Like, not everyone has to beat Doom CM, but just having that level of engagement with a part of the game that I want to see supported. I don't necessarily want them to have to do hard content. In fact, quite the opposite. I want everyone to be able to access it. I understand that there are people, I mean, a lot of the time it is kind of self-imposed, but there are some who generally just, that ain't for me, right? That, it ain't for me. 10-man content, I've got to do my DPS, I've got to gear my character, I get some proper gear. That ain't for me, okay? Like, those are the players I'm targeting. I'm not targeting the guy who says, I can't do it, it's too hard. I'm targeting the guy who says, you know what, that, I'm a casual player. I'm just not that interested.
But fair enough, Deroir, I do think that you have a point in that there is a valid concern that if they find that the split of people playing the easy mode of these things is 95% people playing easy mode and 5% people playing the hard mode or the normal mode, then they might get swayed. Just like I'm saying that they're going to start putting more resources towards raids if they have more engagement. You might be right. They might be putting more resources towards easy mode stuff instead of hard mode stuff if they find that's the case.
For that, we can simply look to Fractal CMs. I believe that's actually what's happened there.
How many extra rewards do you get for CM versus
CM? Perpetual interaction, we have a less than 1% interaction from all the players. That's a 200.
What's the reward bump? What's the reward bump for doing CM versus normal?
More relics, and you get the unstable cosmic essences, which give you the infusions. And
is it worth it?
On top of that, yeah, it's definitely worth it if you can do it.
Then why isn't anybody doing it? It's worth
people doing it. It's because there's a normal mode, and you can do the tier 4 on normal mode.
Well, exactly, because it's not worth it enough.
Well, I mean,
if normal mode didn't give you anything,
that we don't need to go down.
Well, if normal didn't give you anything, you might do CBM if you get rewards.
Listen, there are distinct... Guild Wars 2 is already a brilliant platform for offering the easy mode raid experience. It's called open world. It's called living world, right? That is what you would degrade it to. It would be the spectacle of accomplishing something. The game already satisfies that. Raids are developed and implemented for a specific purpose, to give elite challenging 10-man stuff. There's no need to debase and bastardize that in an attempt to pander to more people to come. They won't in the first place. And Teapot, you want the idea of 60% people killing Soulless Horror. An easy mode Soulless Horror that is at the level where because what people want is their time to be respected and not be able to play much. They can't play much, so they just want to waffle their way through it. That experience you're giving them, Teapot, is not worth anything. It's not what you actually want them to experience. It's basically living world. And even worse now, what's their incentive to go back and do the hard mode when they've seen the animations, they've seen the environment, they've seen the story, they have even less. I'm telling you, it's dead end. There's no need, and it's developer effort for a dead end. You can do no developer effort.
There's a very good point there that you made, that people just want the easy way, and I think that's exactly the issue that has been perpetuated through years now. We're at the point now where people are so used to just having everything handed to them. It's very hard for them to readjust to actually having to do anything. I don't think an easy mode will reacclimatize anyone to actually want to do that, to pull that effort through.
There will be a couple, but it's in.
Well, but
they'll be offset by the people.
Like I said, I don't think the turnover rate will be like effective. I just don't.
I think all of this is. I'm arguing for it kind of selfishly because I believe that more player engagement would increase development time. But now that I think about it, on the developer side of it, would a developer really use more development time to create an easy mode to see whether or not they should put even more development time into raids after that?
That's what I was trying
to... It's
a
bit of a stretch, but I mean, it might be a bit of a stretch, but I think it might kind of follow that people do actually want this, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, Benji in chat's got a good point. They can do split methods and try things out, you know. And I think we've seen them trying things out as well. Different varieties of CMs and stuff, and attempts over the years, like the Hearts and Minds challenge mode in story with Morgemoth and all that kind of stuff, just to see how people handle stuff. But anyway, I feel terrible there because that is such a huge topic, and we could go on for so long. I guess it's kind of about.
We already went on for too long.
Can't have a tea time, dude, without talking about easy mode raids. It's not possible. Like it's a tradition at this point.
Future of the game, no easy mode. Easy, let's go.
Yeah. No easy mode. Well, I don't know. I think it's a really interesting topic. There's certainly good arguments on both sides. I think it's a heated debate, to be sure.
It's funny that I took this position too, because I'm not really that
interested.
I'm not really that like I don't have a huge investment in it either way, but I just think it would make sense.
Well, a very slight tangent to a different thing, but the future of the game, raids, what is for everyone your preferred, no matter what you think about the other philosophies, release schedule, cadence?
6 months. I think that's it. Well, that's not my preferred, but that is the realistic preferred.
Every other Living World release, all right? Go fractal raid. That's
exactly that.
Anyone else?
I believe that's what they are aiming for right now.
But is that what is a good idea?
I think so, yeah. I hate it when you get a fractal and a raid and a Living World.
Yeah, all bunched together.
I would even rather that they don't.
It wasn't tied with Living World. Yeah.
I'd rather it was like Enter the Mystic Forge a week after the Living World, for example.
Yeah.
People can really focus and consolidate.
I think that would be good. Another system I think that would also be strong is if you enabled the challenge mode even later after that, right? So
yeah.
So you could have like the challenge mode race as well as the normal mode race. That would be.
But once again, you're putting the devs in perpetual chipping mode.
They aren't gonna do. Well, actually, you know what? Thanks to like the joy of how stuff works, it seems that they're able to quite easily change, like enable and disable the challenge modes. Like we know that from Week 6. So that's didn't seem like too much of a problem. But yeah, no. When it comes to that kind of I think 6 months is a very good release schedule for raids. Any more than that, you would start to get a bit of burnout. And typically guild groups that progress more casually can take a decent amount of time to clear it anyway. Just play. They raid for say like 1 or 2 hours, or like 2 to 3 hours, like once a week or something. Yeah, you'll take a while to get through all the content, especially if you include the challenge modes on top of that. So I think 6 months is good, especially if you have fractals on the other. Like, so you have a piece of PvE group content every 3 months. I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, especially if it's fractal CMs. Let's go fractal CMs.
Speaking of actually just a fun thing, because I saw a lot of people while we were debating back and forth about easy mode. A lot of people are suggesting the 5-man raids, and I can't help but think that in most cases, actually, if you just like tone down the damage or whatnot from the bosses and made it 5-man
requirements,
you're still making it harder on yourself than the 10 player experience. Just because all players will now have to do something.
No. I think one of the things that people maybe don't think don't think about is how you would implement the easy mode. Like the way you implement the easy mode or like the low man mode is that you just make it basically infallible. Okay. Now I realize this will horrify, of course, WP and Deroir. You guys had no idea just how easy I want easy mode to be. I want easy mode to be unfailable, basically.
I like it.
So living story.
Yes.
Yeah. No death anymore.
Yeah.
Weird rally for living
story.
We're gonna run away from this topic.
Not anymore.
We're running away from this topic a little bit, but
fight.
I think it should be like completely free. It be completely free, is what it should be.
But no rewards, right?
Not many rewards. No, not many. Rewards.
No, I mean, if you're gonna do it, then yeah, I agree. Go to the extent of infantile.
Infantile mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, when
all dying.
When you start doing that, you start realizing just how close you're getting to a post-clear tour that someone can do just from loading into an already cleared wing, which we already have, right? So there's a slight difference of, I saw the boss die when I pressed a couple of auto attacks. That's a very thin bar between that and just doing a tour of the wing afterwards and watching the cutscenes afterwards.
There's
I feel like I dug up a wound here by readdressing the
you
easy
did.
Mode.
Yeah, we should have passed this conversation.
We got to run away from the easy mode, man. It's too much. It's too much. It happens in WoW LFR. Can we just talk about like the LFR meme? Like look, okay. The reason you think that LFR killed raids in WoW is because is because it removed the social aspect of it. You don't have to find a group anymore. And also, like, are you kidding me? Like raids in WoW are not dead at all. Did you see Methods stream their progression for Mythic Plus? 100k viewers, dead game mode, bro. Are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? Like, how many guilds compete for Mythic Plus in WoW? Okay, like saying that like LFR killed raids in WoW is literal insanity. Okay, as in that's complete disconnection from the universe in general. Like you've transcended to another plane of existence where things are completely different. That don't count? What do you mean it doesn't count? How does that not count? I mean, what do you mean? As if it killed raids for the casuals, not the hardcore?
That don't count, and you know it.
Yeah. It didn't kill raids for the casuals at all. It just made it so like the mega casual player could access raids in World of Warcraft. Like, look, you could still do normals. Like, what do you mean? It's like what's going on here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the argument doesn't make sense to me. And even if that was the case, like, I'm arguing from the point of a hardcore player anyway, dude. Like, if I can fuck the casuals, give me more raids. Okay, if I can get away with that, then sign me up. So I was like, it's a win-win for me. But I don't know. Like, yeah, we're ditching this. We're ditching this, right? Yes. Someone hit me with something else.
Keeps pulling you back in.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's a really interesting discussion. I think it's a great topic. All right,
I got a really good one. I think for
let's do it.
Maybe a conclusory one as well. Mm-hmm. Where do you see ArenaNet in 10 years, and then maybe 20?
Ooh.
Guild Wars 3.
That's a very quick answer.
They moved from Seattle to.
Oh, you mean like okay. I mean, I said early on in the stream, I said exactly that I'm expecting at least another 10 years of this IP, Guild Wars 2. And I'm sticking by that. I genuinely believe that could happen. But beyond that, I mean,
it might seem like a crazy question for me to ask and a bit silly and a bit far out, but I mean, really, it feels like the wait for the Guild Wars 2 release was very recent to me. I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. And we're talking a period of 7 or 8 years already, you know? So
yeah, it's amazing. It's crazy to think that it's been that long, right?
Yeah, it's weird to think that you do that again, and we're talking about an MMO that's.
Yeah.
It's been my entire period of education.
We have characters older than walking, talking people, you know?
Yeah.
Like scary, dude. Master's degree.
So it's too far out for you guys really to have anything pointed to say about it.
I would say there'll be build templates.
In 10 years,
the leaderboard.
It's fractal fucking leaderboards, man. In 10 years, we're talking Guild Wars 3. In 10 years, Guild Wars 3. We're an expansion or two into Guild Wars 3. No, maybe even more than that. 10 years is a long time, man. If Guild Wars 3 is going to land, I'm expecting kind of 2020. Okay, seriously. Or 2021 at the latest.
What? No
yeah,
way,
dude. Yeah, man. I think it's like 2020, 21 or something like that.
Wait, what?
He thinks of Guild Wars 3 in the year 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
No.
Yeah.
They need, let's just, let's assume for a second that it was, that they thought this up 2 years ago. Like, at the start of, like, the same development as, like, Path of Fire. Let's just put it there. They'd need at least another 2 or 3 years.
Okay, fine. An announcement. An announcement. I reckon we've got one more X-Pack.
At least.
I reckon we've got one more X-Pack. Okay? And then wham, it's Guild Wars 3.
Wham.
Okay? So fine. No, maybe the game doesn't come out in 2020, okay? But like we hear something about it in 2020, okay? Right?
So like 5 years.
Yeah, so then like maybe then the game comes out.
All right, remind me 2020.
Yeah, and then the game comes out, let's see, like I don't know, a few years after that, because of course it's a long development cycle, right? But you know, I think it's
assuming they're not already in it.
Hey, chat saying I'm on drugs. Well, you guys are all gonna get exposed when I'm right, okay? Right? You're all gonna get exposed, all of you. Right?
You need to like timestamp this just to rub it in.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get this clip, guys. I'm gonna expose all of you. Okay, boom. You guys are all. Yeah, I won't be. What do you mean I won't be? I'm gonna be right as fuck, boys. You're all. Yeah.
Remind me 2021.
Yeah, I'm gonna expose
this video.
Sam, okay. We hear something about it like 2020 or 2021. It's Guild Wars 3. Boom. 20 years after that, I think that might be a bit too far to say. Honestly, that's really difficult to predict. Like, who knows what developments in technology have happened, right? Or genres, because you know, we've seen like if you look at the journey of video games, right? We've gone from the RTS game to the MMO to the MOBA, right? To the the battle royale, right? And who knows what's going to be next, right? Someone's going to come up with something, right?
Will civilization exist as we know it?
Battle royale, IRL,
man.
Dude, that's getting deep now. Holy shit!
We'll be playing Killer Winter Simulator. Oh wait, not a simulator.
Yeah, Miami might be underwater.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Same with the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's my bold prediction, guys. You know, you know what, chat? Okay, at least I got the balls to make some big predictions. Okay, you got to go hard. You go hard and go home. Okay, and you guys are all going home.
No, I think if you're on, I've thought about this too. The idea that if the season 4 to season 5 is because they're making something else and something big, you got a good shot at being right there. To be honest, if it's Guild Wars 3, I don't know, but. You know, it's close.
Yeah.
I thought I was the tinfoil hat guy.
So Guild Wars
somebody
3,
gave him a tinfoil hat.
Yeah, I see. So maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic with my predictions. Of course, MMOs in particular have extremely long development cycles because it's one hell of a game. It's one hell of a thing to make, right? So maybe it won't be that early, but I would certainly expect to start kind of hearing stuff kind of going on, getting a little bit crazy by kind of 2020, 2021 with regards to either Guild Wars 3 or a new IP, right? So that's what I see in 10 years will be probably on that IP, unless it's not an MMO. If it's an MMO, then it has some longevity to it. But if it's, say, something completely different, then it won't last as long because that's just not how it goes, right? Like just doesn't last as long.
It's a weird thought as well that over the next decade, people are very cynical any new MMO will actually come. So it's a weird thought that you kind of get this selection of MMOs, right? That cover, you've got your WoW, you've got your Guild Wars 2, you've got your ESO, you've got your FF14, you've got a slightly different take on EVE, but they're like all established in the mid 2000s. Or early 2010s, and then that's it. They're like the old guard of MMOs, and then forevermore they get to keep their populations, but no one else can ever really penetrate or come in. It's kind of a weird thought.
Yeah, I think something similar is happening with, or gonna happen soon with battle royale games.
Oh, you think that they'll keep an internal population, but not
necessarily? Yeah, I think the market's reached kind of a saturation.
Interesting. Well, yeah, anyway, I don't have an answer for it either. I don't know what the hell they'll be doing in 10 years.
It's difficult, yeah. It's very difficult because of how the industry as a whole moves, right, very quickly, and it's also very fickle as well. Something can just come out of nowhere, right? It's very difficult to make new predictions, and MMOs, might have to adapt a lot in order to be able to survive, right? Just because of the way, just because of what people are really into, right, these days. But yeah. Anyone else want to whack that? Boots, you want to hit that shit? Where are we in 10, 20 years, dude? What's
Yeah, I have no idea. It's hard to say. We're 7 years into this game, I guess. 6 years.
Yep.
It's it's hard to say what's going to be in 10 because Guild Wars 1 only lasted 7 years basically. So not
even that. I mean, Guild Wars. I just want to blow people's minds for a second here about Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 literally had a year, and then Factions was 6 months later. Nightfall, they decided to move on. That was Guild Wars 1, right? Then they spent a while developing Eye of the North, and then it was dead. It was gone. It burned out like in 3 years.
Meanwhile, though, WoW has still been going on for that whole time. So I guess it depends on what game you have.
Yeah. Like the Guild Wars 2 announcement was not that long after Nightfall came out, right? So like, because they cancelled Utopia. They'd made their decision. So people think of Guild Wars 1 as this like, I don't know, crazy thing that rivals Guild Wars 2 in so many ways. And it just so doesn't. Not in population size, not in duration, none of it. I love Guild Wars 1 and I always will love it. But there's some serious like, what's the word for when people kind of rewrite history in their minds?
Anyway. Revisionism, perhaps.
Revisionism, thank you. Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah. There's always those rose tinted glasses, right? It's always good to look back at things, especially when it was the thing that got you into gaming, right? Like the first MMO you played, right? People love that shit. But
I'll say this about Guild Wars 2 though, I could see another expansion with Cantha, and then after that, I'm having trouble thinking of what you'll do with an expansion. So
at this point, I'm just even. I mean, unless they go back to like the other dragons, there is a limited span of time.
My thought has always been Into the Mists, but that's it. So that's
we're already there, basically.
So I could see maybe 2 more expansions for Guild Wars 2 reliably.
I think there's a potential for more, but I think they've kind of. I think they've intentionally put themselves in a favorable position to not continue beyond 2 by just putting the two other Elder Dragons to sleep. Like so like Primordus gone, he's asleep. We don't have to really deal with him. We don't really have to have an expansion around him. Kralkatorix soon to be done. Bubbles, maybe Cantha, and then Jormak, he's also technically done, I guess. They put them in a very favorable position, favorable position for themselves to like just end it after.
But that's it. So once the dragon storyline is over, does that mean Guild Wars 2 is over? Because
that's why I want some stories all over the place.
It feels like Guild Wars 2 though is and always has been sort of the story of these dragons in a way. And the logo is a dragon. Every logo is a dragon. So if the dragon storyline is over, does that mean then move on to a new game?
I don't want to get into a huge discussion. I'm gonna have to go in a second, but I gotta say I really kind of what we just said there. I think that there's a huge potential to keep the Elder Dragon story going on, and there's like a whole other plot about the replacement of the Elder Dragons and the success and the chances and failures of that we're only just scratching the surface of, and I think that ArenaNet can keep telling stories for ages. I also think
that is where the story's going for sure.
And I think that not that it can be stretched out. I think that to be told and done any justice, it would take a lot to move through. And in terms of geography and locations, I mean, let's just get out of the mindset of Guild Wars 1 places. There's a whole world out there of, let's see some totally new things as well. I see limitless potential for this idea. The struggle against the Elder Dragons, story theming wise, that's what this product is. And there's so much more there, I think, anyway. But Deroir's right that they have very cleverly done it so that
they could if they wanted to.
We can quickly move on.
Yeah,
if they want, if they see the opportunity. But you heard it here first, guys. Infinite potential. 2080, let's go.
And
Guild Wars 2
that is
expansion. I don't know, 50.
That is very much the other potential. They could actually kind of go for the Guild Wars 2.5 model, right? Where you do actually update the engine and you do update the game, so it's a bit more uses more modern technology.
Corteria overhaul, baby. Yeah, I would love to see stuff.
Yeah. Like kind of pull a bit of a Cataclysm, right? But World of Warcraft Cataclysm, and just kind of rework the game on its own and just keep it going. Right? Have a Guild Wars 2.5 instead of a Guild Wars 2, instead of Guild Wars 3. That is something that you could get away with. I can see it, right? Because it has lasted a long time. right? Guild Wars 2 has lasted a long time, and honestly, if they did decide to keep putting out expansions, like, would it die? Probably not. Honestly, I think they would be able to kind of keep it going. It is kind of a bit like WoW in that way. I think it is. Yeah. Its lifespan will be determined by the company rather than the player base. This is
what Deroir was saying as well, right? About the revenue. If they can keep it going, why not keep it going?
Yeah.
So you're saying 2086. We get Guild Wars 2 in space, but we're actually playing it in space.
Yes.
We're on the moon.
On Mars.
On Mars.
Dude, if I'm alive in 2086, I really hope I can run a Guild Wars 2 private server. That would be quite nice.
Speaking of Guild Wars 2 in space, I feel like this is a more of a conclusive topic, and I think Mr. Potato's got to run off. Boots, do you think there's actually, or anyone actually here, do you think there's actually a potential we'll get a living story map in the mists now that Kralkatorrik is kind of hiding there? I think there's a potential. I don't really want that to happen, but I think there's.
Why not?
I agree. Everything. I don't particularly want it, but it could be.
Yeah, I really want just like all of these like gray areas to be filled out on the world map. I think there's a lot of potential for that to still keep on going, and I love when they do that.
Yeah.
Every time they instance anything or put it in the mist.
We've finally come to the story at this point in the tea time, but yeah, the previous episode really set a precedent, like with regards to like what is possible within the context of the game, right? Yeah, we could even end up fighting like the end boss of the living story entirely in the mist, fighting alongside Glint's army, right? Like that. I
think there is a potential that we will literally have episode 6 be in the mist.
Yeah,
like the map, just the entire thing is in the map.
The surrogates can take you anywhere.
Yeah. Surrogates can take you anywhere.
And there's I don't know. This is such a crazy topic, right? Because like all the stuff that happened in the new map is like crazy, right? Suddenly we know that almost like alien worlds can exist here because of the mists bleeding through with the mushrooms. You can go back in time, like fractals kind of exist in the open world now in a way.
Like the potato said, endless possibilities.
Yeah, it is endless potential. It's endless potential, and I think you know what That is an amazing place to end, guys. It's been one hell of a tea time, guys. One of the longest tea times ever. Nearly as long as the Nemesis tea times, actually. You remember those, Boots? You remember that? Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
I don't think I was on any of
the
them,
Nemesis tea times.
The Nemesis tea times, I believe, it actually went to 4 hours.
I don't think I was ever on any of them.
Were you not on? Really?
No, I was never there with Nemesis. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awkward.
Shit.
I guess not then.
I thought I could have sworn you were, but never mind. Yeah, it's the Nemesis tea times where we talk about how delusional everyone is. Okay, now that was
apparently it was.
That was a real good
fond
content.
memories of that.
Zach knows everything I've ever done, so apparently I was on one of the Nemesis.
Zach is the chronicler, okay? He knows. He's going to make it into a song now, okay?
He's the minstrel.
Like a superhero.
Yeah.
He sings about everything that happens in the world of Guild Wars.
What you need to do, Zach, you need to go through this tea time and edit up, okay, WoodenPotatoes anthem, but it's sung by WP, auto-tuned, okay, using words from the tea time. Okay? Now that would be some serious fire there, dude, okay?
That would be amazing.
But anyway, I think that'll pretty much round it off by saying that the game has limitless potential. There we go. A happy and positive ending to this tea time. So yeah, let's get into the real content, and that's of course the shilling. Okay, because you know what, I know you guys have struggled through this tea time, and what you really want is to listen to us say how great we are and how much you should give us money. Okay, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So, our esteemed guest, a literal vegetable, okay, he grew out of the ground and has climbed up and drawn a face on himself to converse with us, sharing his ideas, okay? It is the one, the only WoodenPotatoes. I mean, honestly, you need little introduction. People know who you are already, but reiterate it in case people forgot.
That was way too grand. It was good to be here. This is a cool way to spend an evening. I'm WP. I run a YouTube channel, which is 90% of what I do. I have a second YouTube channel as well, which is actually way more active right now, where I do daily PvP commentaries and analysis and discussion. And very rarely over the weekends, I do a little bit of Twitch streaming. But yeah, that's basically what I do. And yeah, that's it. Am I supposed to shield harder? I don't know. I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Nope,
Do you have a Patreon?
That'll do it.
Oh yeah, I do have a Patreon as well. That would be pretty chill.
You need to clip that introduction from Teapot and just make it your start of every stream.
Yeah, that would be really good. You sold me way better than I sold you.
Yeah, you gotta get that hype going, man. Okay, so often a companion. Okay, has his builds shat on by the very potato that we just discussed. Okay, it is World of Enders, aka Bootspur.
Hey, that's me. I'm Boots, World of Enders. Find me on YouTube. I can't beg for money because none of my things are monetized on purpose these days. And so you can't give me any money.
Whoa, are you the #1 guy in some of the adventures?
Yeah,
That's right. That's me. Speaking of adventures, we might have, so I'm doing a couple of series with WoodenPotatoes. Boots Bad Builds every once in a while. Now we're doing what did I call it? Adventures
Time. Sorry.
Adventures Time.
Yeah.
And then Elite Speculation on his channel. Go check that out. Maybe you guys could give us advice on what to do next for our next Elite Speculation to do.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to do that in like 2 days, aren't we?
Yeah, we probably have to wait till next week if we have to come up with stuff.
Oh, we'll do the beat adventure then. Anyway.
Okay, all right. And that's it.
All right, there you go. And hates easy mode, hates casuals. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, known as all. No, the number one rando asshat in Guild Wars 2
original
community.
and the best.
The original and the best. The Beetle Race Master. Okay, the slight disagreement lord himself. It is Deroir Gaming, aka Deroir. The Danish
AKA
disaster.
That is quite an introduction. I'll be sure to clip that. Anyways, yes, it is I, Deroir, the original rando asset. I'm on Twitch 6 days a week. Check me out, and also YouTube. Hey, fun.
All right.
I think that'll do.
That's easily good enough. Okay, and you know what's happening, guys? The Dev Slayer. Yes. You can also follow this stream. Links are below to all of these fine channels, which you should definitely check out. But you know what? You should also follow this one, guys, okay? We do TeaTime all the time, and it's always on time as well. Okay? I am never late. I have never been late in my entire career of streaming, guys, because I arrive exactly when I mean to. But yes, follow the stream, guys. Subscribe to the stream. Follow me on Twitter as well, okay? Nearly got Jebro. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Nearly got him. Okay? Taking him down. He's done. He's done. Okay? So, yeah. Follow, subscribe. Come back and watch every day. I stream every day. I make YouTube videos as well, but not as often as I should because I am lazy. I never do recommended fractals, but yeah. That'll do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this epic tea time. And, well, we will see you guys around in the future. All the way up to 2080. All the way up to 2080. And, yeah, space. It's entirely possible that it will be in the mists.
On Mars.
On Mars,
happening
in space, from the space station in the future, where we all have the sickest internet. Okay, exactly. All right, so let's it is time for us to say goodbye, guys.
See you.
Thanks for watching. See
I'm
you.
waving. You just can't see.
Okay, yeah, I can see
potato that waves.
The potato this way. We need to change that graphic.
Do one of those real life doodle things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. See you later.